KBC.co.ke, lifestyle or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
The Amazons. I do need to talk to you. It has to do with something really important and it's really urgent.
What is it? Careful, Connie. Don't you dare trust him. He's just taking advantage of your family.
The police are hounding me. They're all over me.
Are you serious?
Yes, because of this. I would like to ask you for her hand. I would like to marry Diana.
I'm sorry that we're all late today, but... Good afternoon.
The Amazons.
It is the 29th of November, 2021. The week is coming to a new start as we come to the end of the month of November. Good morning from whichever part of the country you're watching us from. It's been a chilly morning here in Nairobi for the past few days, and right now the roads are completely slippery. So what is your responsibility as a driver or even as a pedestrian on the road? Be cautious, all right? And if you're a pedestrian, just make sure that you also obey the traffic rules. My name is Victor Law. What about you? Which part of the country are you watching us from? You can reach us on our social media platforms. Mine is at Victor Law, and I'm not alone as always. It's going to be an amazing, amazing, amazing show. The three ladies are with me in the studio as always, and she's back.
Yo!
You remember that movie by Arnold Schwarzenegger? I'll be back. The Terminator. And she's back like a Terminator. I'll be back. A round of applause for Mrs.
Mrs. who?
Mrs.
who?
We might get it wrong.
Nani nafaa kufanya intro next after wewe?
Ni wewe.
Who's
Go.
after you? So that was the last one.
Okay, let me go with you, Doreen.
Really, with me?
No, let me go with Jen.
Yeah,
for all the
go with
obvious
Jane.
reasons. Jen, good morning.
Actually, with Regina.
No.
Tutaanza piki ponki hewani.
Yes. Okay, let me start with Jen. Let's go around that way. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning, Vic. How are you?
Fantastic. It's been a very good weekend. What about yours?
It's been very lovely. Spent time with family.
Yes.
You know, it was a random midnight trip to my father's home.
Allah?
It has been a beautiful weekend. I've enjoyed myself, and we do trust also you from wherever you're watching us from. You had a lovely weekend. As rainy as it may have been, we do understand some roads were flooded heavily due to the heavy downpour that we witnessed.
I'm told your camera imeenda hivi. Like
Nikai hivi.
Yeah. So it's okay. So we can either go to Regina. What happened to Manu? You guys, you had a very good play last evening, but 1-1 is not a bad. It's not a bad result.
Regina alikuwa tu ana smile vizuri tu.
Today she's happy.
Alafu.
Regina, today you have hair to flip.
Yeah, you can.
When someone.
Dio.
Rocky that way. 1-1 is not bad.
When somebody sana kileta mchezo.
Arsenal should not be talking about Manchester United. So,
Kidogo, one boy, are you there? We are here to bring peace.
Manielewa?
Hiyo ni kazi yako cheledi.
The only time that Arsenal can even just say something is after the game on Thursday, where we are going to thrash you. So for now, sit back, relax, in silence.
We are not talking about the future. We're talking about the past. The past will determine what the future will look like. You've been humiliated as if you people don't play. Kwani, how many are you? Are you 6 in the field?
You see, the only person I would entertain in this conversation is a Chelsea fan. You happen to be an Arsenal fan, so Victor.
Come on.
Sasa, if Stephanie was on, she'd be like, oh, unajua, but we know that was just by virtue of a penalty. Sawa? Moving on swiftly. Good morning once again. Great to have you on board. Viva Manchester United, viva. We have a long way to go, but tutajikaza. Hivyo ndio hivyo, tunajikaza hivyo hivyo. We'll not, as they say in Swahili, kelele ya chura aizui nani kunywa maji. Now in that statement in itself, unajua chura, you will know the frog and the ng'ombe.
Oh, really?
I pity you guys.
We are just here to ensure that there's peace.
I pity
We'll not
you.
even discuss about the water. Now, before I take the thunder, I want to hand it over to a lady who went before us and is looking all fine. I didn't know marital bliss can make you glow like that. Well, I glow every Monday. I know after spending time with family and loved ones, but Doreen.
Look at her.
Lord. Hey,
I don't know
director.
if it's Doreen or Mrs. O.
Director anafanya ile kitu, but nonetheless, I'm here.
Karibu
And I'm
sana.
good
It's
to be
good to
back.
have you back.
And I
am
feel so
avoiding
good.
to be cheeky, but nitasema tu nisamehe. Disclaimer.
Usichome.
Hold your horses. People are watching.
Usichome.
Tunangoja matokeo.
In the words of Gloria Muliro.
Don't worry,
To you.
don't worry. Good morning, our viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's such a beautiful Monday morning, the last week of November. November ni ile mwezi. Yani November was that month. November was that month. But then again, like I said, it's just good to be here, good to be alive, to see another day, to see another week, to see the last week of the month of November. And we always appreciate you for making time Monday through Thursday, joining us from 6:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. all the way in Pakasho Isha. We always appreciate you. This morning on the roads, we shall be focusing on yet the fourth and the last road to be renamed in this year. This is Mbagathi Road, which was renamed to Raila Odinga Road. This was a motion that was put forth by Minority Whip Peter Imotok up until it was implemented in early November. So I'll be telling you what was actually the major reason as why they deemed it fit to rename that particular route and how that is coming along, and also the kind of strategies they use when it comes to renaming of roads and even buildings here in the city and even beyond. Many thanks for making time. I'm Doreen Arange Okelo. I did that thing. Girl, them just added a name to her name.
Man, good stuff.
Then those are goals, right?
Goals, manzi.
Goals.
Lakini kwa sasa, Jane Waboi wa Kefira.
Na mimi kwa sasa.
Regina Gashari wa Manyara.
Nawe kijana kwa sasa.
My name is Victor Lo. Son of a law. All right. Okay. Unfortunately, we don't take. We take our father's names, and that's it. It's given. So, I'll tell you my middle name when you come back after this particular break. Director says that we did take a break. My middle name, Olo Istemze. We'll be right back.
Najua pale mnapolala na mnapoamkia.
Itachukua muda gani wewe kujua kwa she's not your match?
I don't know, wakili. I just don't know.
Taka kitu chako hata mbingu utaileta hapa chini.
Alipokuwa kijijini alikuwa hai, lakini kwa sasa siwezi jua.
Now more than ever, you need to be scared of me.
Good morning. If you're just joining us, this is Good Morning Kenya and home for news, sports, and as well as business. Now, you're watching Good Morning Kenya. We have so much lined up for you, including what has been happening in the political scene, updates in as far as our health is concerned, especially now with the discovery of the new variant in South Africa and even confirmed in Hong Kong, so to speak. Other than that, we want to engage you on our Twitter handle, and I can see some of you are already online and giving us feedback, and I'd want to read this. Doreen, someone says, Mrs. O, it's good to have you back. Well, Doreen is back on set, Traffic Marshal A1. Then also someone is asking, what do we call the color of your dress? They're referring to this color. So for those who may be colorblind or not exactly knowing exactly what this color is, it's not red, that is for sure. Neither is it maroon. This is fuchsia. Yes, it is a shade of pink. It's fuchsia. Now, without further ado, let us do Matters News. Remember, you can get further details on our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke. My Twitter handle is at @RayManyara, and our station Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1. Now we start off with matters of COVID, where the Ministry of Health may be reintroducing screening at all points of the country, into the country, that is, following the outbreak of the new COVID-19 variant, according to Health Principal Secretary Susan Mochache. The surveillance has been intensified, calling on Kenyans to take the vaccination exercise seriously.
The Ministry of Health says Kenyans can only bank on the vaccines should the virus find its way into the country.
Number one is to secure yourselves, all of us, through vaccines, that the vaccine is safe. It has been seen to have no side effects, and if they are minimal.
With the world grappling with the outbreak of the new variant already reported in several countries, the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Susan Mochache, says the virus has all along been mutating, but the vaccines have played a big role in taming the impact.
It is a virus that mutates and continues to mutate. If you recall, a few months ago, we were dealing with the Delta virus. Now we have the Micron virus. And the good news is that the vaccines that we have still remain useful and are, they are resistant to all the variants that have been coming.
Mochache reiterated that surveillance has been intensified at all points of entry to ensure the economy does not fall back to depression.
Tourism is going to be going into the peak month right now, around now in December, and that should not be frustrated at all because there is a new variant. If we all adhere to the protocols, we make sure that vaccines are taken, there is no need for anybody to panic because that is the only way we can secure our country.
South Africa, where the new variant Omicron was discovered, is lamenting that it is being punished instead of being applauded for discovering the new variant of COVID-19. Already, the World Health Organization is warning that the new variant is of concern.
Quick update is so far the country has vaccinated 6.9 million people against COVID-19. However, only 2.65 million Kenyans have received their full dose. So if you're among the 400.2 million who haven't received the full dose, well, you need to get yourself fully vaccinated. Remember, security begins with you, not just in matters of security, so to speak, but now when it comes to matters of COVID-19. Are you social distancing? Are you donning your mask appropriately? Washing your hands with running water and soap, as well as sanitizing. While you ponder on that, let's look at what has been happening on the political scene, where Deputy President William Ruto is asking politicians seeking elective positions to conduct their campaigns peacefully. He called on leaders to desist from using youth to cause chaos and instead focus on offering solutions to problems bedeviling Kenyans.
Speaking in Kirinyaga County, the Deputy President assured UDA aspirants that the party will conduct free, fair, democratic and verifiable nominations. Ruto warning that there will be no preserve of any seat for anyone, saying it's voters who have the final say on issues of elections.
Watu wa Kirinyaga, Mimi nauliza nyinyi. Si mnajua tuko wengi hapa? Singirishi yuko hapa. Si Waiguru wako hapa. Si wabunge wote wako hapa. Mimi nataka niwaulize kwa unyenyekevu. Hawa wote ni viongozi wetu. Sawa sawa. Na sisi tumesema tunaheshimu kila kiongozi. Na wenye kuamua ni nyinyi. Si nyinyi ndio mtaamua.
He called on leaders seeking various seats in the party to remain united and sell their agenda to the people, adding that confrontational politics should be shunned.
Mimi nawaomba kwa unyenyekevu. Hii chama ya mahasla hatutaki vita, hatutaki fujo, hatutaki matusi, hatutaki kulimana. Tunataka tutembee pamoja na wananchi waamue.
In a tense meeting attended by both Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru and area women representative Purity Ngirichi, the DP said he was best suited to move the country's development agenda forward. The area governor Anne Waiguru urged politicians to subject themselves to democratic processes where the people will have the final say, calling for peaceful campaigns, a position supported by a host of leaders who attended the event.
Wananchi ndio wataamua nani atachaguliwa Kirinyaga. Na sisi hatutaki fujo. Hatutaki matusi. Tumekubaliana.
Sisi wote tunang'ang'ania tikiti. Ni kusema ya kwamba chama ya UDA ndio iko na mizizi.
Hii nyumba yetu ni kubwa na tutakubali kila mtu akuje kwa UDA.
Nyinyi mpango ni trickle down ama bottom up? Trickle down ama bottom up?
Is indeed the political season. Trickle down, bottom up. You and I at the end of the day will decide who is going to lead this country. Now, still keeping up with politics from Kirinyaga County, let's get into Nairobi, the Eastlands region, where the ODM party leader Raila Odinga promised a comprehensive medical cover for all Kenyans if he is elected president in 2022.
After spending 2 days courting the Mount Kenya region, Raila Odinga arrived back in the capital where he attended a church service in Donholm Estate on Sunday. Odinga then made several stops in the area before addressing thousands of his supporters at the Jacaranda grounds.
Juzi mimi nimetangaza hapa Nairobi, najua shida mingi iko hapa. Mambo ya mabarabara, mambo ya maji, kodi ya nyumba, mambo ya uchukuzi ya takataka kama siweji na kadhalika. Sio? Yale yote tutaweza kuyatatua.
Odinga took a swipe at the deputy president, accusing him of being insincere with Kenyans in his campaign for the presidency.
Anakuja na pesa kwa magunia. Acharambe kwa kundi ya kina mama milioni 10. Arambe kwa kundi ya vijana milioni 10. Gari kwa shule ya pande ile milioni 10. Gari ya askofu ya kanisa milioni 10. Mwaka moja jamaa anatumia shilingi milioni 100,000. Mshahara yake ni milioni 2 peke yake.
Raila said he will strive to ensure that health services are affordable and of the highest quality.
Industrial area imekuwa kama ni kaburi ya viwanda. Viwanda ambazo zilikuwa najiri watu 1,000 sasa ni store ya kuweka makontena ambazo zimebeba bidhaa kutoka China. Bidhaa kutoka China ambayo sasa inaajiri tu kiwanda moja, washerman 2. Kampuni ambayo ilikuwa inaajiri watu 1,000 inaajiri watu 2 peke yake. Maana yake tume-export labor yetu kule China.
Leaders accompanying the ODM leader urged Kenyans to rally behind the former premier in the march to Canaan.
Hii kiwanja ilikuwa itengenezwe. Yule mtu anaitwa Ruto akakula pesa ya hii kiwanja. Alafu aseme tutaumba yeye kula Nairobi. Nairobi kula ni nani? Baba, maisha hii Nairobi imekuwa ngumu sana. Lazima uangalie bei ya maisha hapa Nairobi.
Odinga will on 10th December officially throw his hat into the presidential race.
It is here at the Jacaranda grounds that the ODM party leader Raila Odinga has assured Kenyans of economic revamp if elected in office in 2022.
Now, Raila was in the capital city, the deputy president in Kirinyaga. Amani National Congress Party leader Musalia Mudavadi has emphasized the importance of adherence of policies and laws in the country. He was speaking in Eldoret.
Mudavadi, who was in Eldoret, claimed that some politicians are using school buses for their own personal interest and campaigns.
We have seen double standards in this country. Professor Magoha said school buses should not be used for private functions.
The ANC leader appealed to the government to ensure that state resources are not used to give a certain group undue political advantage. Musalia called on Kenyans to always judge their leaders before voting them into office.
We want free and fair election. No state institution should be used in any way to try and uptwist the decision of the Kenyans. So I maintain that position. We want free and fair elections.
Naomba kiongozi mwenye atakuja mwaka ujao au kiongozi mwenye ataweka Kenya njia safi sana, njia laini ya kiuchumi, ya kuweka Wakenya pamoja, ya kuangamiza ukabila, ya kuangamiza ufisadi na kuona kwamba vijana wetu wote wamepata ajira.
Meanwhile, National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi says politicians must start telling Kenyans the truth and avoid the doublespeak. Muturi, who attended a Thanksgiving ceremony of Reverend Gakibe at St. Stephen PCA Church in Kaga, Lari, Kiambu County, said it was unfortunate that politicians even take to the pulpit to lie to Kenyans.
It is very appropriate for positive activism to happen because unless we are proactive, we are likely to get this country in the wrong direction. We need to be always honest in what we do, and we also need to show that we mean what we say and say what we mean.
While ODM presidential hopeful Jimmy Wanjigi has vowed to take his quest for the orange presidential ticket to the wire, as former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka warned him to prepare for a stormy ride ahead. Kalonzo, who held talks with Wanjigi, recounted how he had to part ways with Raila in 2007 and warned Wanjigi not to expect smooth nominations.
Huyu baba sijui kama anaingia kwa ring, unajua hajasema anaingia kwa ring. Hajazungumza? Labda atasema sijui. Akiingia, hiyo ni sawa. Tunataka ingie kwa ring kama anataka. Hiyo ni demokrasia. Kasarani mtaona ile technical knockout ile kali ambao mjaona. One round mnipigie makofi.
Mimi nakuombea tu. Mimi nakuombea kama unaingiliana na baba. Kikiumana huko, kimbia kwa ndugu yako. Kwanza naona hiyo inaitwaje? Kasarani hiyo itakuwa kisirani zaidi.
Now, stepping away from a bit of politics is that the Media Council of Kenya board has renewed the contract of David Omoyo as a chief executive officer for a second and final term. Omoyo will now serve until July 2027. In a statement, MCK Chairman Maina Muiruri said the renewal of Omoyo's contract had been made in accordance with the State Corporations Advisory Committee guidelines, which require that a decision on the CEO's contract be made at least 6 months to the expiry of the current term to allow for a smooth transition.
Just in case you've been wondering when it comes to matters of, the weather as it is, in Nairobi right now, we are experiencing lows of at least 17 degrees. Now, according to the Met Department, the current high temperatures being experienced in the country will continue into January and February next year. The Deputy Director of the Meteorological Services, Bernard Shanzu, says a lack of rainfall and cloud cover has worsened the situation as long hours of direct sunlight are contributing to the high temperatures.
The Deputy Director of Meteorological Services, Bernard Shanzu, attributed the high temperatures being experienced in the country to climate change arising from global warming. According to Shanzu, the development of La Nina in the Pacific Ocean has led to reduced moisture, hence the clear skies, which then allows for long hours of insolation. He warned that the dry air and dust could also see a rise in respiratory infections and urged for precaution among the public. The long hours in open spaces directly under the sun's heat could also lead to dehydration as bodies lose water through sweating. Shanzu advised the public to take plenty of fluids in their diets in order to stay hydrated. He noted that urban areas that are more like concrete jungles are becoming heat islands, while lack of vegetation to absorb the heat makes the concrete surfaces become heat conductors.
Well, now you know the reason behind the high temperatures. However, being a Monday morning, and if you're within Nairobi County, especially within the areas of, the CBD and its environs, it's quite a chilly morning, actually, with showers, and we even expect thunderstorms up until the wee hours of morning tomorrow. So dress warm and carry an umbrella, please. Tafadhali. And those who are driving, kindly be also, cognizant of the fact that the drainage system is something that we are still yet to get right. So don't go splashing dirty water to the pedestrians. That's very uncouth, but happens most often. Now, talking about corporate social responsibility and also getting to know our viewers as well as our listeners. 15 FM, a vernacular radio station and an affiliate of Kenya Broadcasting Corporation in the broadcasting in Somali language, this weekend took to its Meet the People tour to populous Isili.
Today, 15 FM, we conducted Nairobi Road Show. Our road show was fruitful. We started in Isli, and we went to South C, we went to South B, we went to the entire Eastlands, and then the culmination was at Isli towards 5 p.m. The reception was great. We were welcomed by the Somalis and also the non-Somalis. And 15 FM is, as you know, is one of the brands of KBC. It is an household name that's known by every Somali across the board, whether in Northeastern or also in Nairobi. We are very happy because most of the people that we interacted with during our road show, they know the presenters, they know the kind of programming that we have. They also suggested some new programs that we need to include into our schedule in the near future.
Now we cross over to the counties where elders in Laikipia have initiated a series of meetings in a bid to resolve long-standing conflicts between communities residing in the county. The conflicts have led to loss of lives, destruction of property, and theft of livestock.
Elders in Laikipia County are pushing for peaceful coexistence after months of conflict between communities living in the region. Speaking at Naibor, former National Assembly Speaker Francis Ole Kaparo said that the initiative is intended to encourage young people from the region to shun criminal activities that have led to conflicts.
Tumekuwa tukijadiliana leo yote vile wao watachukua
jukumu yao kama wazee na viongozi ya vijana, kwa sababu wako hapa kwenda kuwazungumzia wenzao kuasha mambo ya uhalifu.
Kaparo spoke even as a section of leaders in Elgeyo Marakwet condemned the recent killings of 4 herders in Kapkobil.
Ya usalama kati ya jamii tofauti wanaoishi area hii ya Sosian, na hasa kati ya wafugaji na wakulima, tutarudisha chini kiasi kama hatutaweza kumaliza.
Meanwhile, Bishop Peter Ochieng of the Apostolic Church has urged politicians to refrain from making inciting remarks during the campaign period and instead promote peace.
Calling upon all our servants, fellow servants, irrespective of which church, even the Muslims and whatever denomination, that if it is about God, God is a God of peace.
Elsewhere, the disruption of jobs occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic has seen many tenants flee to the rural areas. According to real estate experts, enterprising youths are gradually filling the gap to meet the peaking demands for houses.
It's not easy to be conned in land if you know the ways to follow before buying land. There are 3 forms. Don't skip either. There's the land itself, there's the survey itself, and there's the legal part itself.
Meanwhile, Nairobi woman representative Esther Passaris wants the government to keenly monitor the ongoing drought in several parts of the country and put in place concrete measures to deal with it. Passaris, who was distributing food to the needy in Westlands, Nairobi, said many families are in dire need of relief food assistance as a matter of urgency.
Tunajua hali ya njaa iko juu na tunajaribu juu chini tuhakikishe kwa watu wetu na wanyama wasikufe kwa sababu ya njaa.
Finally, more than 50 cooperative groups involved in cattle farming in Tigania West, Central and East of Meru County have benefited from free artificial insemination kits donated by Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries.
Tutakuwa na training ya farmers. Maybe next week Mungu akisaidia. Ndio wale farmers tuleta watu wa Kagirik wakuja wasaidie kutrain wakulima.
Kenya Animal Genetic Resources Central Kirinyaga Station Manager David Sang said the project will go a long way in boosting the dairy farming in the region.
Well, now that bit from the counties is taking us right to Marty's Sports. But before that, we're already getting feedback on our social media platforms there regarding people who are watching this particular show this morning. I'd want to take notice of Mary Chege as well as Nicholas Chege, who are watching from Nairobi, as well as Jackson Kehara is sure always tuning in from Nairobi area. Further, we cross over to Nyeri County, where we have also a viewer from Nyeri County. And though they have been silent, so to speak, but Madam Lucy Nyambura, it's good to have you on board. That is Lucy Nyambura Gashusha watching us from Nyeri County. Remember, we welcome your feedback. You can get us on Twitter at KBC Channel 1, as well as my Twitter handle at Ray Manyara. Now let's cross over to Matters Sports, where former Kenya Premier League champions Gor Mahia went down 1-0 against Otoho Di Oyo of Congo at the CAF Confederations Cup. After the first leg playoff match yesterday at the Alphonse Masaba Stadium in Brazzaville, the lone goal was scored by Ronald Okuri in the 56th minute, while Tusker FC played to Berendro against CS Sfaxien of Tunisia in the CAF Confederations Cup match played at the Nyayo Stadium. The return legs of the two ties are scheduled for the 5th of December.
In the early minutes of the first half, both teams showed equal chances of scoring, but after 15 minutes, Tusker dominated the game and made several attempts, which the Tunisian side saved, forcing a goalless halftime draw. In the second half, Sfaxien dominated the game but wasted several scoring chances. However, the hosts looked relaxed in the second half. Their defense made no errors, hence the match ending a 0-0 draw. The CAF Confederation Cup playoff round second leg is set to take place on 5th of December this year. Daniel Mwendwa, Sports.
Kenya has been pulled in Group B of the second leg of the HSBC Sevens World Series to be held next weekend in Dubai. Kenya, who finished 8th in the first leg, also held in Dubai this weekend, will play United States, Australia and Canada in the second leg. First leg champions South Africa are in Pool A with Great Britain, Ireland and Japan, while giants Fiji are in Pool C together with Argentina, France and Spain. South Africa topped the table standings with 22 points after winning the gold in Dubai. Well, now US as well as Argentina follow with the silver and bronze medal places with 19 and 17 points respectively. So remember, you can get further details on stories that have been making headlines, including the updates in as far as sports is concerned. But I know Manchester United fans as well as Chelsea fans were treated to a riveting game yesterday evening that ended in a 1-1 draw there as Manchester United took on Chelsea there. Then also there's a question in as far as matter sports are concerned. So who is going to be crowned the best of all? What am I talking about? We're talking about the Ballon d'Or that of 2021 that has been announced. So we have great people who have made to this list, but at 10:30 p.m. we will know who is going to take the biggest prize in as far as sports is concerned. We have names like Lionel Messi, Robert Lewandowski, Jorginho, as well as N'Golo Kante and Cristiano Ronaldo, just to mention but a few. So we're going to be keeping tabs on that. 10:30 is the time, and we're going to be bringing you those details. So if you're a sports fan, I think this is something you're going to be looking out for as well. As the women have not been left behind, many of us may not be familiar with these particular names, but we have Alexia Puletes, Jenny Hermoso, Vivian Miedema, and Like Martinez, as well as Sam Kerr. We're going to be bringing you details of that as we continue with our broadcast. For now, we take a quick breather. When we return, we're going to be sampling what the various dailies have captured for us this morning. Do not go away.
Log on to the KBC website at www.kbc.co.ke to get the latest breaking news, entertainment, sports, politics, lifestyle or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
The Amazons. I do need to talk to you. It has to do with something really important and it's really urgent.
What is it? Careful, Connie. Don't you dare trust him. He's just taking advantage of your family.
The police are hounding me. They're all over me.
Are you serious?
Yes, because of this. I would like to ask you for her hand. I would like to marry Diana.
I'm sorry that we're all late today, but...
Good afternoon.
The Amazons.
anajua pale mnapolala na mnapoamkia.
Itachukua muda gani wewe kujua kwa she's not your match?
I don't know wakili, I just don't know.
Taka kitu chako hata mbingu utaileta hapa chini.
Alipokuwa kijijini alikuwa hai, lakini kwa sasa siwezi jua.
Now more than ever, you need to be scared of me.
Welcome back to the program. This is still Good Morning Kenya. Time for our fast traffic link this Monday morning. And this is actually our focus today. What you're seeing right there on your screens, if you can actually see it very well, that is the Raila Odinga Way. Right, so this is our focus today. This is a road that was renamed on the first week of November from Mbagathi Way to Raila Odinga Way. This route used to be called Mbagathi Way, but since then, that was from November 5th, it got renamed to Raila Odinga Way. And this is as a result of a motion that was put forth by Minority Whip, that is Peter Imwatok. And this is because of the contribution that the former premier has done to this country when it comes to democracy as well as economic developments. So this is why they deemed it fit to rename this particular route. It becomes the fourth road to be renamed since January of this year, and of course the last of 2021. Like I mentioned again, the fourth road to be renamed in 2021. 3 roads have also been renamed after prominent and important persons. And again, if you just take note of most of these, mostly major roads, especially here in Nairobi, most of them are renamed after prominent persons or people that really contributed greatly to this country. When you look at the likes of Kenyatta Avenue, Haile Selassie Avenue, Moi Avenue, a good number of these roads have been renamed after key persons such as this ones, just to remember them and the contribution that they've done to this country. Also, one of those roads just next to this one, which was also renamed after an important person, that is the Agwix Kodek Road. Again, one of those roads which is just next to this particular one. So for those that are used to calling it Mbagathi Way, that has changed altogether. Now it's being referred to as Raila Odinga Way instead of Mbagathi Way. So this morning we just look at the traffic flow on this particular route, this particular stretch, try to see how it is looking like, how it's doing. Remember that also on the same route, this is Raila Odinga Way, there's been a lot that has been happening in terms of road activities and constructions. Just recently, the new footbridge was installed on this route, and this is after the previous one was removed because of it not being so easy for pedestrians to use as they cross over from one side of the road to the other side. And again, also there's still some ongoing works around that stretch just as you get to branch off to areas of Langata Road. So obviously a lot is still happening on that route. So this is again why we are really checking the traffic flow, try to see how it is looking like and how it's doing all together. And again, also it always serves as a very good alternative route, especially for those living areas of Langata Road, Nyayo Stadium, coming to the city center, or even areas of Kenyatta V Road, going to those areas. Instead of using all the way to the CBD or city center, always this route from Mbagathi Way, now Raila Odinga Way, serves as a very, very good alternative route. So perhaps you can begin from the T-Mall roundabout. This is that area where there's still a lot going on in terms of road activities. Remember that they're still trying to construct the overpass and the underpasses along this route to try and see how best this can reduce the traffic flow. And this is part of what is informing the kind of heavy traffic being spotted around this roundabout. And again, also it's obvious because it's one of those busy roundabouts, given the fact that it branches off to Raila Odinga Way, Langata Road as you head over to the city center, also leaving areas of Langata, Rungai as you branch off through the Timo roundabout, coming through Raila Odinga Way, and also areas of city center via Langata Road. So clearly this is also one of those major reasons to why you'd expect to see this kind of heavy traffic, because of those reasons. And again, also in addition to that, the ongoing construction still happening on this route. In fact, it is estimated to take around 4 years just because of this construction, which is also categorized in 7 phases. And as we move along, I'll be telling you the different phases in which this particular construction will be undertaken. and obviously it's being undertaken by what we call the public-private partnership, or if you made the PPP, which is again one of those new forms that the state is using when it comes to construction of roads. Back to traffic flow. Not so bad as you leave the roundabout, coming all the way through Raila Odinga Way as you head over to areas of city center, moving at a very, very swift pace. Just on the other section or on the other side, as you leave areas of, this is the city mortuary roundabout, as you head over to sections of Ngong Road there, just before you get to branch over there, on that side, and also as you head over to areas around High Rise, slightly past the same way. On that section is just where there's a bit of a traffic, but at least altogether still manageable kind of traffic. As you head over to areas of CBD, not that bad, so clearly you can still use this route as one of your alternative routes. And just around the roundabout is where, like I mentioned again, there's really heavy kind of traffic, which is again quite expected. It is around the roundabout, one of those busy roundabouts, major roundabouts. Obviously what we are seeing is basically what you would expect to see. But also with what you're spotting at this point, we really don't need to look at any major alternative routes. That is how the road is looking like this morning in terms of traffic. Our focus is keenly on what is happening along Raila Odinga Way, just to also to bring to your understanding why most of these roads they get renamed after prominent persons, and why specifically Mbagathi Way to be renamed Raila Odinga Way. And again, also just trying to track the progress of the construction happening there. And again, also bring you to speed on these 7 phases and why just this stretch will be taking the entire 4 years when it comes to construction of that section around the Timol roundabout areas. You head over to branch off to areas of Raila Odinga Way and also Langata Road. But at 38 minutes past 7, that is how it's looking like in terms of traffic this morning.
Okay, so how about we take a look at our local dailies here. On this 29th day of November 2021, I have the Star newspaper, and on the front page, Raila Ruto link in vicious Oka feud. Raila Ruto link in vicious Oka feuds. Kenyatta has been keen on having the leaders team up ahead of the polls. Ruto said that he is pursuing a pact with at least one chief. Some principals pulling for ODM leader, some for UDA. That is on the front page of the Star newspaper there. And yesterday there was some, it's called Battle of the Titans in Kirinyaga, where we had Deputy President William Ruto attending a church service, and he had with him, that is Girishi, who is the woman rep there in Kirinyaga, and Governor Anne Waiguru, both eyeing the same political seat, that is a gubernatorial seat, come next year. So it was a kind of a tough moment for the DP, but he, being a politician, he managed to sail through. Okay. Farmer escapes death after hungry jumbo flattens granary. It is said that a Baringo man narrowly escaped death after a hungry elephant stormed and destroyed the temporary grass-thatched granary where he was sleeping. And now the authorities say that it's because of the human encroachment into the wildlife habitat. Nomination plan splits. Governor hopefuls eyeing Wiper ticket again. A leaked plan by Wiper to use a scientific survey to pick its flag bearer for the 2022 Kitui governor contest has not only crossed jitters but also split the party aspirants for that particular seat. Most of the politicians have been saying that the nomination process will be free and fair, but we all know that that is where the whole game begins. So how it's going to pan out is going to be a matter of interest. Now, feuding Oka split between Raila and DP Ruto factions. The vicious feuding in the One Kenya Alliance has been linked to cracks over the working with either ODM boss Raila Odinga or Deputy President William Ruto. The wars are now threatening to sink the outfit that originally was touted as a formidable third force in the 2022 presidential election and contest. While some forces are keen to have the outfit team up with the Raila, another faction is pushing for a political deal with Ruto. Yet, another group within Oka is adamant that the principals must stick together and go all the way to the ballot in the next year's general election. So why and where are these coming from? Kakamega Senator, that is Cleophas Malala, singled out Kalonzo and Gideon for quote-unquote sending the wrong signal about their commitment to the outfit. Both have been endorsed by their parties to run for the president. The latest being Wiper, which had their NDC last week at Kasarani. So that is as far as political scene is concerned. And moving quickly before I give it to you, Jen, Mudavadi urges church to pray for peaceful polls. He's been on the front line calling for the politicians to maintain peace and even the Wananchi to make sure that they don't fall prey to the politicians. He says that Kenyans are suffering because of the high cost of living, and he's been championing for better economic recovery if at all he'll be chosen come next year. Now, there's a story here that I think something has to be done. 2 arrested in Mtitondei over SGR vandalism. So it's all because of a scrap metal, and a dealer was arrested in connection with the SGR vandalism, and the process causing major disruption on the service along that route from Mombasa to Nairobi. So the latest delay of the services was on November 22nd, where a train from Mombasa was delayed for more than an hour over vandalism. Suspect Michael Mbevi was arrested on Saturday at his scrap metal store in Kinyambu, that is in Mtitondei, as gauge blocks were on the verge of being loaded into a lorry. And so I'm just asking myself this question, because it's like you're trying to vandal. Being a vandal is, actually police say that this is tantamount to committing economic sabotage and terrorism. It's like you're going to the main highway and then you're digging a trench across the road, along Mombasa Road or Nakuru Highway, without any good reason. Or maybe you're taking that tarmac to go and repair or patch a road heading to your home. You can imagine, for those 2 people who've used SGR, you can imagine how many people that thing can ferry from Mombasa to Nairobi or to and fro. So, accident can happen. What will you say? Let's be careful, guys. Let's be careful. Jen.
All right, let's now move on to the Daily Nation. Start off with the stories that have been featured here on the header. And of course, that story about what happened in Kirinyaga, of course, has been given prominence here, with the Kirinyaga rivalry getting ugly after Waiguru and Girishi supporters clashed at a church. On the other hand, we have Raila, who tells of DP Ruto when it comes to the freebies spree that he has been on. This is a story that has been covered here on page 6, with MPs allied to the former Prime Minister cautioning the Deputy President against harassing and blackmailing state offices and agencies that are involved in the preparation of the 2022 general elections. And actually, Mr. Raila Odinga was quoted saying he's going around the country discussing wheelbarrows and dishing out money to the youth instead of opening industries for them to work by virtue of his position in government. Yet, he claims he has your interests at heart. And he also went on to fault the DP for absconding his state duties and choosing to campaign, and also failing to deliver on the Jubilee pre-election pledges that they made. Now, coming back to the main read, Ruto's hidden hand in Oka Chiefs fallout. All right, so ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi has dismissed as baseless claims that he is working with the deputy president, but his allies, on the other hand, allege that there's some night meetings that have been taking place and secret talks to push him towards an alliance with the deputy president. We'll be giving you details about this story in a bit. And finally, who wants the spy queen dead? This is the story of Private Detective Jane Mugo, who was attacked and dumped near Chengalo Forest along the Eldoret-Nakuru Road in a burnt forest last week. And she said that she was living in fear way before the kidnapping incident happened. So that briefly is the front page of the Daily Nation for you. Details coming up in a bit. Doreen.
Let's start from that particular note on who wants the spy queen dead, because that story has been greatly featured on the PD this morning, with the main header conflicting reports about attack on that private investigator, that is Jane Mugo, who claims that she was attacked by unknown people. Deepened yesterday as conflicting police statement emerged. Of course, right now what is still happening is that they're trying to investigate on that particular matter. Coming to a bit of some politics, this is again in line with what was also there on the GMK news briefs this morning, where Kalonzo Musyoka says that do not fix me again. This is what he's telling Jimmy Wanjigi over the State House race. To a bit of some health matters on COVID-19, this in regards to the new variant COVID-19 strain, which is now shutting borders across the world. And what is emerging is that with this particular strain, what we used to know as those symptoms of COVID-19, they're not in this particular one, such as there's no cough, there's no fever, and there's actually most of these symptoms, sometimes these symptoms do not even appear at all, and it takes even less time to get to that particular extreme. So this is why when it comes down to Kenya, there's been a lot of emphasis on people to continue ensuring they just adhere to those COVID-19 protocols, even as it was mentioned by the CS Rashid Aman yesterday, is that they need to keep off public gatherings, much as we are gearing ahead towards election and it is the politicking season. But based on this particular report, it just shows that this particular strain is not one to joke with. That is what is coming out there when it comes to a bit of some health issues. And also there are some key issues emerging when it comes to the 2022 race and what most political figures or heads are trying to address, even as they continue popularizing their 2022 bid. Of course, key among them being issues to do with employment and young people. There's matters to do with poverty, as well as various other issues. When we get to those details, I'll be giving you the detailed report of how the PD has highlighted. In fact, it just mentions these are the 10 issues that will shape up 2022 State House race and what each political candidate is trying to use to popularize themselves ahead of that next year's general election. To a bit of some education matters, now TSC says that the refresher courses are not to punish teachers. This is actually what is recommended for most of these teachers, as being mentioned by the TSC Chief Executive Officer, that is Nancy Masharia, who insists that teachers need to take this refresher course, and this is just for their benefit and to continue enhancing their skills. And even as we just try to prepare ourselves for the State of the Nation address, there's a lot expected to be addressed by the President tomorrow as he undertakes his last State of the Nation address. Key among those issues that Kenyans are expecting, of course, matters to do with the drought, economic challenges, the ravaging effects of COVID-19, matters to do with poverty, amongst other issues that Kenyans are expecting the President to address, and not forgetting the debt crisis. So clearly there's a lot to expect come tomorrow during the State of the Nation address there. In a nutshell, that is how the PD looks like this morning. Ray.
Sneak peek of, the Standard this morning has been equally summarized with what you guys have on your various dailies. So politically speaking, looking at where the top political guns have been over the weekend, we can suffice to say that Raila was in capital city, that is Nairobi, Ruto in Kirinyaga County, where we saw that showdown between Girishi and Waiguru there. And Ruto went on to say that, Kenyans at the end of the day will decide who is who. We are not here for infighting and such. Mudavadi on the other side, he was in Eldoret and Kitale too, where he said and cautioned politicians from using school buses for their political campaign. Kalonzo Musyoka was in Lukenya, and we can say that indeed the bus is en route, so to speak, in as far as matters politics. At the end of the day, you and I are going to be called to cast our ballot that is going to ensure who is going to run this country. So quick summary, that is what we have on the front page of the Standard this morning. And I'd want to draw your attention to another story there. When it comes to journalists, we highlighted the death of a Standard Group journalist. Now, according to the Kenya Editors Guild, they have raised concern, and they have called on the authorities to take quick action to establish the facts around the two deaths. This is the death of veteran science writer Gatonye Gadhura, whose body was found in a thicket in Naivasha with a copper wire around his head. Statistics indicate that so far, 4 journalists have lost their lives or died in mysterious circumstances over the last 2 weeks. Yes, so the other 4 journalists include Hudson Wainaina, who was also a former photojournalist with the Standard Group. And now talking about, sometimes you just need to get answers, to get closure, talking about closure. So you can get to read about that and what the Editors Guild as well as the Media Council of Kenya is saying in regard to that matter. Talking about matters politics, drawing your attention to a caricature that has been captured by one of the scribes this morning. That is Gado, so to speak. And it shows, actually it goes by waiting for a phone call from Nairobi. And this is at the desk of the ICC chief prosecutor. This particular caricature, there are like how many cell phones? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 cell phones on that table. And the comments at the far end, and we are in November 2021. Your guess is as good as mine when it comes to matters politics. Remember, this is for you to decipher and, get to your answer. It's a rhetoric at the end of the day. Bringing your attention to an exclusive that has been carried by this particular paper is what does the former CJ have to say ahead of the 2022 elections? What does he have to say? And we're talking about none other than retired Chief Justice Willy Mutunga. You can get to read what he is saying. Talking about winning the ODM ticket. Now, presidential hopeful Jimmy Wanjige has been told that it's not a walk in the park. And these are words directed to him by former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka. And now the 16 days of activism against gender violence were launched last week on Friday. And there's a particular story here, and I'd want to engage my colleagues over that matter. So Trufena Aswani was sentenced to 1 day in prison after she killed her husband. 1 day in prison. Yes, a day. Yes, a day. A day. So now she says she cannot access her 3-acre parcel of land in Linao village, Siaya, which she bought and stayed on with her late husband. So, the backstory, and according to to Justice Roslyn Aburiri, let me quote what Trufena Aswani says. That's the lady in question there. She says, after her first marriage failed due to suspicion that she was barren, Obochi, her late husband, took her in, loved her, and they were later blessed with a son. She goes on to say that on the fateful day, her husband returned home drunk, picked up a machete, informed her that he wanted to sell their family land. He threatened to chop off her head if she failed to hand over the said documents that were in her custody. He had in the past beaten her until she had passed on and I was in hospital. He tried to attack me with a machete. I grabbed him and hit him with it. Unfortunately, he passed on. That is her testimony at the High Court in Siaya. Now, according to Justice Roslyn Aburiri, she noted the victim was a victim of perpetual domestic violence from her husband, evidenced by scars on her head, her backside, and body. So she had scars to show. The only two things to remember. Miss Aswani, for one, is that she was a butchered, battered, dehumanized, and violated woman with no voice. She persevered through the domestic violence meted on her by her late husband, described as irresponsible and violent. The justice further went on to say she will be remembered as a person who killed her husband in the process of defending her own life. Further, Aswani was not willing to leave her matrimonial home because she loved her husband. She was ready to die under his cruel hands because she had borne him a son. She loved him. This was even after Obochi's other 2 wives left him due to his violent nature. As we talk about matters gender-based violence, 16 days of activism, when you read about this story, Aswani story, what comes to mind? Jane, Victor, Doreen?
You know, whenever we talk about gender-based violence, for most people, we perceive gender-based violence as violence against women. And it has been misrepresented for so many years. And in as much as gender-based violence is supposed to cater for both genders, most of the cases that we have seen have always been violence against women as a majority. And looking at this particular case, you mentioned that she had refused to leave her marital home after enduring so many years of such mistreatment.
Yep. She stayed on because she had been accused previously of being barren. And from this union, she got a son. So it confirmed her. And she stayed.
And she still stayed despite all the violence that was being meted against her.
Yes.
And then this incident now happened.
Yes.
Now, trust and believe, there are still people who are going to blame her for what she has been going through. Some will turn this whole situation against her to try and justify this particular situation. I do not understand. We were not all there to understand the finer details of what may have transpired. But as per that story, she was defending herself, right?
Mm-hmm. And she had scars to show
previous bodily harm,
assaults.
Yeah. This is one of the reasons as to why we always have so many conversations here on Family Check, and which will be happening also today when it comes to marital problems within the family setup. Because this is not just something that you wake up and just start doing. These are traits and habits that are so deep-seated that for some of us, we might not even understand when you are projecting or meting violence against the other person that you consider to be very near and dear to you. And once you have violated them or hurt them, you also go ahead and blame them for what you have done to them. Classic trait of a narcissist. Mm-hmm. But all that is actually in line with the conversation that we're going to be having today, the role that we women have when it comes to stemming gender-based violence. And this is at the center of this conversation. And let me just leave it at that for now. Victor.
Yeah. You know, in self-defense, it said that the first person to pull a trigger is most likely to win the fight. And you have to stick there. I have to, because, you know, the judge said very well that from all the past experiences, she was acting on self-defense. There is no doubt about that. When you're acting on self-defense, if you are the first person to retaliate, to defend yourself, and you hit the target spot on, you are most likely to win the battle, because her life was in danger, and with all the available, you know, evidence and, you know, against her, the stabs, you know, the head injuries and what have you, it showed that this lady had actually gone through a lot in her marriage. And then now, on that particular day, it was just a matter of time before Akufe. So what did you do? On a point of self-defense, if you hit the target properly and spot on, you're likely to win. And what the judge said is that, you know, justice is justice. She was sentenced to 1 day in prison. Yeah. And see, after looking all the evidence and just serving the justice to both parties, according to the judge, that was the best kind of sentence that she would give her. But Violence is violence. It doesn't matter where. Verbal, physical, emotional, violence is violence. And there are people who suffer emotional violence. Terrific, for lack of a better word, terrific.
Thank you, Victor, for bringing that up. Issues of emotional abuse. Because
it's
it
bad.
is
You feel
intangible.
drained,
It is not
physically
physical.
though. Yeah.
You'll not wear your scars on your face.
Yeah.
And you know,
But
Regina, just allow me to jump in at that particular point. When you talk about emotional violence, it's one of the things that most people don't understand is a manifestation of violence and abuse.
Yeah.
And even the law. We will be coming back to have this conversation, and also we invite you to chip in. Even the law, like substantiating that this person was abusing me psychologically, or what we choose to say, emotional abuse, is difficult because it is not tangible. But you feel it. We take a quick breather. We'll be right back.
I do need to talk to you. It has to do with something really important, and it's really urgent.
What is it? Careful, Connie. Don't you dare trust him. He's just taking advantage of your family.
The police are hounding me. They're all over me.
Are you serious?
Yes, because of this. I'd like to ask you for her hand. I would like to marry Diana.
I'm sorry that we're all late today, but...
Good afternoon.
The Amazons.
Ngimache gaska watu tegu Ngimache yat mugulel dangu Ngimache imanguge Nyange begi puti nai Lale yo Kimi giva genge Lale yo Kitwat FM gigosi Lale yo Kitwat FM gigosi Kitwat FM gigosi 98.0 Kitwat FM Kigosin.
Ili kupata sikiza tuni hii ya cha muhimu maishani, bonyeza star 811 star 962 hash.
Cha muhimu maishani si kuishi tu. Cha muhimu maishani ni mchango wetu katika kuboresha maisha yetu na wengine.
Ili kupata sikiza tuni hii, cha muhimu maishani, bonyeza star 811 star 962 hash.
Good morning once again. If you're tuning in, this is KBC Channel 1. In the headlines, we were just sampling the stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours as prepared by our news desk, as well as the various dailies that we have with us in studio. So we were highlighting about Tufrena Aswani's situation there, a lady who December last year was, killed the husband there in self-defense and was sentenced to one day in prison. And in the judgment, Justice Roslyn Aburiri noted that she was a survivor. She had been butchered, battered, dehumanized, and violated, and had lost her voice. It was quite unfortunate that this particular altercation led to the death of her husband. But it was a matter of time, so to speak, if you look at the scars that she had had over the years. And it was either her or the man eventually. Just turned out that Mr. Obochi is the one who succumbed to injuries after he came up upon her home and threatened to behead her if she did not hand over the land documents that he said he wanted to sell. So in defense, the panga that he was planned to, or rather the man wanted to use on her, she in turn managed to wrestle it from his hands and knocked him over with it. Unfortunately, he succumbed. 16 days of activism began last week. We're talking about why is gender violence, especially during this last few months, actually the year 2020 to date, the cases have been on an increase, and they have not been an isolated case in per region, but they have caught across board in as far as the social strata is concerned. Madam O, Doreen Arange.
Struggle with the prefix, but nonetheless.
We are struggling. We are not so sure. Anyway, you remain a brand as Doreen Arange.
Nonetheless.
Oh yes, you are a brand. What is your take in regard to this? With this in this day and age, this 21st century, we're talking about men hitting women, women hitting men. It's a crazy world altogether. What's your take?
Well, while you're reading that article, I think there's just one part that my mind stuck at, and this was the part where you mentioned that this lady was not able to give birth for a while, up until she was able to conceive a son for this man, and that she actually loved Mr. Obochi, and because also of giving him a son, she felt, let me stay. And it occurred to me, how many women or even just men out there are staying in relationships, difficult marriages, just to prove a point. I just want to prove to you that actually I'm in a marriage. Somebody said that marriage is not by force, it's not by fire. It's not a step that you actually, when you know, like the way we go to primary, high school, campus, so now you get married, now you feel it's not an achievement. Marriage is not an achievement. It's not necessarily a step. You need not be there just to prove a point, because I can tell you for sure, many people are in, a good number of persons are in this, so to speak, devastating relationships, devastating marriages, but just because of where they are in society or what they got or what they're getting from it, they'll choose to stay there just to prove a point. And we keep saying all the time, anytime we have a conversation on relationships and marriages, we keep saying, especially if it has something to do with your life, imagine it's not worth it. It's not, because it's not an achievement. So you being there, and then you end up losing your life regardless of who it is. So who's telling the story? Who's telling the story?
What Doreen is saying is quite sound. And from what you've said is that the gentleman in the picture here has a record, or had a record of violence in his past relationship.
Yes.
So
2 wives even left.
Exactly. Two women left him because of such. So perhaps it was just a matter of habit. He had that habit of, you know, what Jen would say, is it a narcissist? And somebody who would want to sit on your head intentionally, ukijaribu kuinua kichwa anakugonga, go down there, do not say a word. And when you look at such people, in their brains, they tend to take women as, okay, as weak as
they objectify women. Let's just go with that.
Exactly. So you are just supposed to be seen. If I hear you say a word, I'll beat you. I don't think that is the way to go, because even in the Bible, God had a communication with man. So communication is key either way. You understand? And the reason why now the judge went ahead and said, I'm going to jail for just 1 day, because of the evidence that was adduced before the court. Court of justice will always work on evidence. If this guy had, like, this is the third lady that was suffering in his hands. So you can imagine, kama huyu msichana nangekufa, angejitetea wapi? You get what I'm saying? Yes. So it's unfortunate the guy lost his life, but he was in the process of killing that lady. So in case, as I said, in an event of a self-defense,
neutralize the
threat.
Source of danger.
That's it.
It's either me or you.
Yeah.
Fight,
just like a
flight or
situation.
freeze.
Yeah.
Now, but why do you have to get to that point whether it's either me or you? I mean, by the time you are actually, it's too much. The violence is just, and this is kitu imekuwa repeated. Si ati ni one time, two time. It's actually repeated. Why does he have to get that point whether it's either me or you?
Yeah.
You know,
it's not necessary.
The sad thing is, and arguably so, times have changed, but it is still so deep-seated that so many people are taught, once you get married, pambana na hali yako. Through thick and thin, pigana na kila kitu. Hata mupigane,
And women are told, please fight your battles on your knees. I'm like, good Lord.
Well, that is a factor.
Yes, you know,
it is.
But it's not, what I'm trying to say is, someone hits you today. No, I'm just being very honest.
That is like a freno. Like okay.
I'm imagining, look at this Trufena Aswani situation. Yeah. If she had gotten down on her knees and started praying, we would be talking about something else altogether. Her head should have been decapitated. But she defended herself. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
However, you find that women, especially when they're dealing with marital issues, you'll find other women encouraging them, wewe hata wako ni mzuri. Alikuchapa tu hivyo. Yani you're like, you need, in as much as we say we fight our battles on our knees, yeah, it is good to always pray for your family, not just your husband. Pray for your husband. Yeah. Pray for your children.
Regina, you know,
I'm saying playing. Pray even for your nuclear family and extended family. However, we need to bite the bullet when it becomes too much, unstable for you, for your children, whether you have them or even in the future. Please.
You know what, Regina?
Get out.
It becomes. I really don't. You know, for a woman to get violent to an extent, anaua bwanake. You can imagine alifika wapi.
That's it.
But then again,
because where did you get that energy from as a woman to clobber your man, your husband, to death?
Well, that is,
as in that lady alifika point of no return. It was just like, man, it's
that
enough.
That is as a result of too much violence happening.
It's enough.
But then again, also, have we thought of that culture bit? Because even as we talk about the violence and beatings, do we remember that there are some women who would say, for me, beating is a love language. Mimi kama hanichapi, hanipendi. Have we forgotten that aspect of culture?
Conversation. Victor, as we take a break,
I say
when you talk about gender-based violence,
on what Dorina just said,
some people actually are like that.
They enjoy the situation.
But until they're dead, until they're dead or they're maimed. That's when it hits home. That wasn't love.
The bottom line is,
there's so many
Regina,
factors.
Mazee violence
is a no-no. Niko na swali, Victor.
Yeah.
Whenever we talk about gender-based violence, we really focus on the women aspect.
Yeah.
I would want to hear your take when it comes to men being on the receiving end. Because also men experience gender-based violence. I don't know if that's a conversation that Jane is going to be roping in, but even as we proceed, remember, this is an open platform. You can get us on Twitter. On our KBC official station handle is at KBC Channel 1. We have a Dorina Range, a Ray Manyara, a Jane Wamboye, and at Victor Olo. What is your take on matters gender-based violence, especially for men out there? Are you aware that it can actually happen to you? And if it did, where would you seek help, or what would you do? I'm Regina Manyara. Now we will be crossing over to the other side and find out how major roads are looking like this Monday morning, despite the cold showers and such. We all know, I don't know, between traffic and there's always a correlation between traffic and the rain.
There is a merger.
Just like whenever it rains, you're bound to lose power, electricity. Doreen, to you.
There's a relationship, there's a merger, there's everything.
Log on to the KBC website at www.kbc.co.ke to get the latest breaking news, entertainment, sports, politics, lifestyle or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
Abantu ba Mintombo Yamore. Your favorite Ekegusi station, Minto FM, is now at your doorstep. Enjoy the hottest Kisi music, informative and entertaining shows, and reliable news only on Minto FM. Tune in to Minto FM on 91.7 FM in Nyamira, Kisii, and its environs. Minto FM in Nyamira.
17 minutes past 8 a.m. Time for us to look at how the roads are looking like in terms of traffic. Remember that today our focus is simply on what is happening along Raila Odinga Way. This is because it becomes the fourth and the latest road to be renamed after an important person, so to speak. This is just in the span of this year. 3 others have already also been renamed after important persons. And just to bring to your understanding, this is simply because of either key persons who've either contributed in one way or the other to the growth of this country, could be democratically or even economically. So this morning, just aside from that fact, also is because there's still some undergoing roadworks in that particular stretch, especially around the Timol roundabout areas. You get to branch of Tumbagathi Way, or what now we call Raila Odinga Way, as well as that section of Langata Road. This is in terms of that overpass and underpass, which is supposed to take a period of 4 years and being constructed in 7 phases. So this is what you're looking at this morning, just the traffic flow. Try to see if at all we might need to look at alternative routes, and this is basically also our focus. The Raila Odinga Way, a road which was renamed on the first week of November, so as of now at least around 4 weeks since it took this particular name. And the major reason as to why this name was changed is because of his contribution towards matters economy as well as democracy over the years. And obviously we've seen, and we also have so many other roads here in the country, in the city and even beyond, just being renamed after prominent and important persons, and the reason is just the same, because of the contribution they've brought to this country. So this is our focus this morning, the traffic flow therein on this particular stretch. And perhaps you can begin from the city mortuary roundabout, at least as of now, tracking the traffic flow there as you head over to that section of Raila Odinga Way before you get to the Timol roundabout. So this is how the area is looking like. Not that bad, at least this has changed as of now. You can remember that earlier on there was really heavy kind of traffic throughout this entire roundabout, but at least right now things are changing a bit. Much as there's a bit of a traffic, still at least it's a manageable kind of traffic, and this is why we are spotting this orange color, which is a clear indication of that. The traffic has begun to build up, but it is a manageable kind of traffic. But then again, also around this roundabout, just like most of the major roundabouts, I can tell you for sure the traffic police are always stationed up early in the morning to try and see how best they can control traffic. So much as we are seeing this again, it's also because of the rains that we have been seeing over the past few days, and that is also expected to continue like in the next 2 or 3 days, as it has been mentioned by the Met Department. So clearly, at least the better part of this week, we expect traffic on most of these roads, especially here in the city center. So basically what you're seeing is what you would expect to see. It's the early morning hours, so obviously a lot of activities as you head over to city center. And again, in addition to that, the rains which also characterize what we are seeing therein. But this is how the roundabout is looking like. Nothing is changing in terms of traffic. There's still a bit of heavy traffic traffic on the section as you get to branch off to areas of Ngong Road as well as areas of Valley Road and also Agwix Kodek Road. Again, one of those roads that was renamed after a prominent person during those colonial times. Away from that, still on that section of Raila Odinga Way, traffic building up as you branch off to areas of Mbagathi District Hospital as well as areas of High Rise. Now, these two places that I've just mentioned is areas next to a bus terminus. So again, that is also expected because, I mean, people are either alighting or boarding matatus thereof. So clearly what you're seeing is basically what you'd expect to see. But the beauty is that the heavy traffic is just being spotted on that particular stretch there. Away from that, as you head over to City Center on that section through the roundabout, not that bad at all. On the other side, as you leave areas of Kenyatta Hospital or Kenyatta area, still coming to areas of Raila Odinga Way on that section before you get to areas of the Timor roundabout, moving at a very, very swift pace, no traffic at all, green all through, which clearly just means or indicates that continues all the way up until areas of the Timor roundabout area, which is one of those areas where there's still a lot happening in terms of roadworks. And like I mentioned, what is actually being constructed there, or the kind of activities there, it's expected to take a total period of 4 years, being undertaken in 7 phases. What is basically happening is that overpass and underpass, just trying to see how best they can ease the traffic congestion, the traffic flow there, given that it's one of those busy as well as one of those major roads, so clearly one of those busy areas. That is actually on that section along Langata Road there. But away from that, still on that same section, traffic still moving at a very fast pace. So simply that means that we do not need to look at any alternative route. So also what is happening there in terms of construction is what we call the public-private partnership. That is still the same form or system that is being used to construct that particular stretch or that particular road there. Some bit of that roads have been closed a bit just to necessitate that construction process, which began in November of last year. So really it's just taken a bit of some time, and like I mentioned, it's expected to take a period of 4 years. Coming back to traffic, still nothing is changing on that stretch, still the same situation there, just in some sections moving at a very fast pace, and some others a bit of a traffic, but again altogether manageable kind of traffic. That is how it is looking like this morning in terms of traffic along the Raila Odinga Way, which is our focus this morning. And just aside from the renaming of this road, it's also those ongoing roadworks activities, and up until it comes to a completion simply means that this is going to really remain our key road and key area of focus to try and see how this construction process is coming along and how it's expected to shape the section of Langata Road as well as section of the Raila Odinga Way. But at just 24 minutes past 8 a.m., that's how it's looking like in terms of traffic.
Dr. Rotich and Abdulli Ahmed, and we're just having a tete-a-tete, to understand what's happening here. Gentlemen, good morning. Good to see you. Starting with Dr. Rotich. It's been a while.
Thank you so much,
Mr.
Olo. I think you tell us, while we were away, what were you doing?
What happened?
What really happened?
He says that this is not like a restaurant. You just walk in. You must be invited. Yes. That's why he disappeared.
I was not invited. That's what I said. This is not a motel.
So you don't have to be a gate crusher.
We have to be here.
We understand. Gentlemen, thank you so much for brazing that particular code in the morning. And we are just about to start our conversation. We need to understand what has been happening in the country, not in the last 24 hours, but the past 1 week, politically speaking. Perhaps, there are so many things that you as a citizen, you might not be so keen on picking them. So from the best heads, from the keen eyes, they see them from a different angle that perhaps you or I might not see them from. And then now I would like to engage them further so that we might understand what is affecting you politically, economically, and even matters to do with security. We are in election period. It's all gloves are off right now as we speak. So politicians will be crisscrossing this country, of which they have been doing. And come next year, it will be thorough. That's what we say. We all know how politics in Kenya and campaigns usually get when it comes to an election period. It's always thorough, and politicians will be running up and down. We have seen Deputy President William Ruto making inroads, each and every day, flying from one particular region to another. His main challenger, that is Raila Odinga, also traversing the country, all in the name of votes. But then now, one thing we expect is President Kenyatta is expected to have State of the Nation address tomorrow. It will be a joint parliamentary sitting, that's both Senate and the National Assembly, as required by law. And we just need to understand what are some of the expectations, the hit and misses during his tenure since the last State of the Nation address. What are some of the things that probably he will be addressing, okay? The COVID-19 situation was here with us for quite a long time. Many people suffered business-wise. School calendar was completely altered. That some people do not even have tab of how the cycle is right now, because we're used to January to April, then to August, and then December holidays. But then now, everything completely changed. Interesting times that we're living in. So I'll be having that discussion shortly with our guests. And you can also reach us on social media at Victor Low, at Jen Wamboy, at Dorina Range, at Regina Menyara. Let's just have a conversation. Or you rather go on our website, that is www.kbc.channel1.co.ke, or can you also reach us on our social media platforms. Let's have a conversation. What are your expectations? Okay, ready to go now? Sawa. Okay, so starting with you, Daktari, perhaps to start with you. First of all, before we started the show, we talked about gender-based violence, and we heard about 16 days of activism. And I'm tempted to ask you this as gentlemen, because when we talk about gender-based violence, this is just an hour starter, because it's always about women. For example, that story we had about that lady who killed the husband because of violence, and the judge jailed her for 24 hours. And because of that, 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. What do you make of that? Starting with you here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
First of all, as long as human beings are together, there will be always feuds.
Yeah.
People will be fighting. But I think the most important thing is, how do you handle some of these things? Too much stress sometimes contribute to either whether the economical hurdles in the family or the external pressure from other people. So there's so many other angles to it. It's not just the man and the woman. But by and large, the most important thing is how do you handle the communication part. Especially, it is very difficult to talk when you're angry. So it's good to walk out or take a break, or first of all talk about that we should not be violent to each other. Because if you react when you're angry, then there's chances that high likely you're going to do some mistakes.
Yeah.
But I had the discussion when I was in the studio that the man did this, but we don't know what happened to the man. Maybe he had more marks than her. Now that he's dead, the dead don't speak. So just because he left maybe 2 other women, I mean, before people get married, how many boyfriends or girlfriends do they have from high school? People have a lot of other people in their lives. They come and go. And then there are those you agree to live together. So it's not it's not a situation where you judge the man or you judge the woman. You look at the circumstances that lead. Remember, Kenya is going through economical hurdles. These are some of the factors that contribute to a lot of stress in the family, because currently food prices are very expensive. Then the person has no, the income is very mega. I mean, they're doing this and that. Kenyans are, majority are very poor. So what is important is always to make sure that we handle these issues very delicately. We call friends to arbiter amongst ourselves, or parents, or psychologists. So involvement of other people who are very close, who knows the dynamic of the family, is also very important.
It's very important, yeah.
But the idea of saying that one person might be the victim of the other is not. Sometimes women abuse men. Sometimes.
Actually, and that's that now brings me to you, Daktari, because even men suffer, the emotional violence, the psychological violence, even physical violence. But violence is violence, nonetheless.
I think, although going by our family setup, there are a lot of breakdowns which have been occasioned by the kind of the economic pressure, the social pressure, and maybe to minor extent it's actually a political pressure. You see, after you can remember, although during the closure of the schools, it was reported that a lot of not actually gender, but family violence were actually reported during that span of time when the children were at home, when they were in their own holiday. And one would ask himself as to what really transpired, because the children were sent back to their parents. And then why all this gender violence? I think there are a lot of things that we must consider when we are looking at the violence that we are actually experiencing in our families. Talk about the economic factors, which has been occasioned by the pandemic for over a year now. And a lot of people lost their jobs. And losing jobs, that means they're losing also the source of their bread. I mean, they're losing the source of most of the things that they're supposed to have. Maybe a family used to enjoy some particular food, and now they don't get that food. And even meeting the most basic things has actually been a big problem in most of the families. The budget is no longer there because the money is not there. So going by that law, I think the family breakdown also is actually the main problem, because when a problem is shared, it is halfway solved. So you find most of the families, they confine their problems. The problems are sorted between the wife and the husband. And in the process, you find that the family, since they are not opening up, they suffer a lot. And maybe the psychiatrists or the professionals at the moment are actually needed to help families, especially those who have studied the psychology, the upbringing of the children, the talking to the family, and also encouraging families to share up their problems. And once they share up, they are actually solving their problems. halfway. And Kenya is facing what the other parts of the world are actually facing. It is economic, it is a social, so it is wide. It's a global problem. I was looking at this case. This case of the very bad incident that happened where the wife actually killed her husband as a result of defending herself. It was the most unfortunate thing, because death is not a solution. I mean, if you have been offended or rather pushed to the world, there is arbitrating bodies. You take somebody to the
perhaps the lady tried. The lady tried.
And it is because of that history that we are having now that the man had actually chased about two earlier women. Now this one was that. Maybe because of that kind of mind, this woman was trying at most to defend herself. But unfortunately, that man was not supposed to die, because you need to have time. You need to be given time to defend yourself. And who can tell, since they were two, who can tell whether the man was going to kill the wife? Who can explain? It is through the wife that she's now trying to say, you see, I was trying to do this, I was trying to do this. But who can bear witness and say that was the whole thing? So in this case, it is people may have actually read that guy in a very negative way, and he had to be given a chance to live so that he could explain his part of the story.
Okay, I think based on what you said, what I can say is that violence is violence, and whichever way, it should not be the way out. Young kids, they copy not from what we say, but from what we do. If they see mom and dad fighting each and every evening before going to bed, that's that's what they will carry even to their adulthood, and you start wondering, kwani familia yangu, what happened to, I took them to school, but everything just that. So
it's the worst thing to happen.
So I just had to bring you to that gentleman because it's 16 days of activism and gender-based violence. It cuts across, and I just had to involve you, and having from a man's point of view, because they also have families, and they, some of these things are important to be talked about because it's a national concern. Okay. So let's get to the story of the day. Politically speaking, if you thought they could not even talk about they're also able to be good councillors. Dr. Otich.
Yes.
A good one. All right. Okay, so gentlemen, we are expecting the State of the Nation address tomorrow by the President. We expect him to have that discussion in Parliament, that address in Parliament tomorrow at 2:30. Perhaps this is, unless stated otherwise, should be his last State of the Nation address, and we expect a lot from the President, having in mind that so much happened during this particular period from the last bit. We are going to talk about that one briefly, but politically, things are changing slowly. It's not the way things were around 6 months ago. Things are changing.
That's changed, actually.
Things are changing, and politics is actually mutating into something that nobody thought it was going to be. Starting with you here, Ahmed, what have you learned? Give it a period of 6 months up to where we are right now.
Well, I think first of all, the politics of Kenya is changing because also our constitution has changed a lot of other things. But what is important is 3-4 months ago, we will not be hearing Oka having some divisions. But we stated that the race might ultimately end up at the doors of Ruto and Raila. Because you can be an alliance, there's so many other factors you consider in men's decision making. We said that you need the state, you need the tribe, and you need the money. But what you need more than all that is the decision to stand firm as a man. That you cannot buy with the money, the tribe cannot give you, the state cannot give you. So how firm? Oka, if you look at the 3 or 4 members, Musalia Mudavadi, Gideon Moi, Kalonzo Musyoka, and Wetangula, can anyone say with certain that they will take a bold decision, share the seats or the positions, and go alone? Because do they have the state? Do they have the money? Another thing is most of them, like Gideon Moi and Musalia Mudavadi, are sons of a president and a minister. So despite the name, what have they cut a niche for themselves politically? Kenyan politics requires people who are very rough in the sense that you need to campaign, you need to have some stamina. You fly from here, go there, sleep here, talk to people. That is 1. 2, how many other people with your resources can you marshal? So now that we said 3-4 months ago that Oka is going to be divided between Ruto camp and Raila camp.
And that's exactly what you're saying.
That is what's going even to happen. The question is, Gideon Moi might join Raila and Uhuru. Kalonzo Musyoka has already invited Raila Odinga to the DNC, Wiper DNC. Where will Musalia Mudavadi and the senator go? So that's a question. Now that they have divided, now, because the projection was if the 3 of them, the Ruto race, the Raila race, and the Oka race, we might be looking at a rerun. Now that they are going to be divided with the hurdles of the economy, with Kenyans angry, will there be a vote of protest either against Ruto or against Raila? We don't know that. But it is becoming apparent that Oka, in the next 2-3 months, it's going to be consumed by either Raila camp or Ruto camp. They will be swallowed, not even consumed, they will be swallowed. They'll be swallowed. They will be swallowed. Because remember, the structures of the countries, apart from the president and the deputy president, we have the attorney general, we have the speaker of parliament, we have the speaker of the senate, we have the finance, very lucrative positions in the country. It doesn't have to be presidential only. So these are the positions some people will be jostling to have them. The question is, if Ruto camp promises Musalia Mudavadi to either be the Speaker of the National Assembly or the Speaker of the Senate, will he accept, or will ANC accept to bring someone else? It doesn't have to
nothing less than the presidency.
Well, if he says nothing less than the presidency from the history of the politics of the country, he might not gather more votes.
Dr. Otis, they'll be swallowed.
I think, let me just delve into the state of the nation.
Yes.
My expectation...
before you get into that, we come to that briefly. What is happening in the political arena right now?
I think, if you can remember, some 1 month ago, we were saying that things are actually shaping up very fast. And in this case, by the time I was here, we were discussing about that Raila has found a strategy to climb to the mountain. Which as at the moment he has climbed. So we are talking about Raila, who is already at the mountain.
Debatable.
And
debatable.
So in this case, now I'm seeing the battlegrounds have been thrown. And Oka, as a third force, will determine the winner of the 2 major contestants.
Can we say
right Honorable Raila Odinga?
Because as it is right now, they are feuds. So it was purported to be the third force or the third horse.
No, I'm not seeing them as the third force.
Yeah.
I'm seeing them as the determinants.
Oh yes.
Because they will end up divided.
Yeah.
And in this sense, because when you look at the talk of His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka, then you look at the talk of Gideon Moi, they are so bitter against Ruto. And look at the talk of Mudavadi.
Yeah.
Is somehow compromising. I mean, you don't see a daring attack on His Excellency the Deputy President. So there is a possibility that the divide is on the making. That very soon you may see Mudavadi actually being, joining actually the camp of His Excellency the Deputy President.
Are they alive to this fact?
No. In politics, possibilities are always there. The possibilities are very open. Now, when you talk about, you saw Kalonzo Musyoka almost saying that he will never go back to Raila, whom he has supported 3 times or so.
Yes.
The other day, he invited him to his meeting when he was launching his and that kind of embracing actually meant a lot to some of the onlookers. So in this case, politics, everything is possible in politics. I'm foreseeing a situation whereby, to me, I'm not foreseeing a runoff come after the next general election.
50% and
it
one
is not,
plus one straight.
You see, as we are talking, Olo,
yes,
Raila is yet to capture his original base. You see, when they were in when they were actually in NASA. It was a broad political base, and the network was very wide. And as we are talking now, we are talking that is on ODM. He's talking as a party, a single party.
Yes.
That means the rest of his political bases that he had before the last, in the last election, he no longer enjoys that kind of basis.
Yeah.
So in this case, much of the intrusion has been made by His Excellency the Deputy President to most of the places where Raila was enjoying a lot of support. So in this case, if Jubilee that Ruto is talking about, that about 156 members of Parliament are on his side, if that will translate into the ground numbers, the grassroots support. So he has an upper hand actually in this race, and I'm seeing he may actually can 50 plus. And the runoff may not be there.
When you talk about the legislators and the parliamentarians, when you see Deputy President now going for the MPs, 100 plus MPs by his side, and when you talk of Raila Odinga capturing the county bosses, the governors, he's been talking about the 16 regions. Out of the 47 counties, he's been consolidating all the county governors at one particular point, then having a declaration.
I think, let us be realistic.
Yeah.
I want to tell you that the people who are on the ground, you could be telling me about the MCS, who are at the grassroots. You could be telling me about the members of Parliament. You could be telling me about the women rep. These are the people who are with the people on the ground. Don't tell me about the governors. Governors are out of touch of the realities on the ground. And some of them, even those who are, let me tell you.
Yeah.
We are on the ground. We are talking about what's happening on the ground. The people who are on the ground, you talk about the MCS, talk about the members of Parliament, talk about the women reps. These are people who are always on the ground, and they can speak the majority of the minds that are actually on the ground. The governors are out of touch, and some of these governors actually are in their last term. They are actually looking for a refuge where to hide their heads in come after the next election. So in this case, I'm not seeing the governors being the real. Now look at even these rallies that Right Honorable Raila had yesterday in Nairobi. How many members of Parliament who are currently sitting members of Parliament who actually accompanied him? When he went to the Central Province, how many members of Parliament did accompany him?
Perhaps
so in some of these things,
perhaps it's a strategy.
So it may be a strategy. I'm not refusing. As I told you, politics is quite dynamic. But going by those who are actually entrenched in the politics of the grassroots, you talk about the members of Parliament, you talk about the MCS, you talk about the women reps. These are people whom you can rely on to actually lead you to where the votes are. That is on the ground.
But I think the issue of the MCS, the MPs, and the governors, first of all, data shows that most MCS will not come back. Even from 2013 to like in Wajir, one guy came back. In Mandera, 4, and I'm sure
it's quite synonymous with Kenyan voters. They vote out.
When my brother here talks about the MCS, is he talking about the incoming MCS or the current ones? Because if he's talking about the current ones, majority of them will go home. The MPs, more than 25%, will not come back. from the history of this country.
From the history, sure.
Governors, you cannot underestimate them. The guys who serve 10 years have two things. They have influence and they have money.
Yeah.
Two factors in Kenyan politics. So you cannot wash them away. They are struggling because the current political structure, they can either vie for Senate or MP. They can't go back to governor because of the tenure
because of the two tenure
of 10 years.
Yeah.
So by and large, what is important that is going to happen is this. In 2022, we might see a 202 repeat, where Kenyans are angry with the political class. Because look at Raila. How many years was Raila in politics? I mean, he was in politics until America had how many presidents? Look at Kalonzo Musyoka. These are guys who were there 30 years, 40 years. The question is, those of us who were born then, when do we have the chance to lead? So these are the dynamics of this country that people must struggle is, why should we have more than 1,000 people leading this country when we have 50 million Kenyans? So we should diversify the politics of the country, where we bring young, energetic, educated, dynamic people into the sittings, either in parliament or in the county assemblies. Because I was disappointed when they removed the degree requirement for the MCAs. That position is not just about the rights of the people, it's about the value for money also. Because in Kisumu, I was told there's a time that 16 members of assembly never spoke a word. And it's so with all the 47 counties. If an MCA has earned more than 400 shillings a month, including his allowances, he's given an insurance, what is he doing in the assembly? Some of them go there to sleep. So you're there to legislate. The Kenyan state is a unitary state where we have the devolved government and the national government. There you are supposed to represent, legislate and oversight. Your work is not to sleep there. So for you to legislate, oversight and represent, you need to have some level of knowledge, because even making budget process only is a very complex thing. So if you're not, it's not necessarily you should have a PhD or master's, even if you have a diploma, but you have worked in systems and then you have established yourself, and then you can be part of this development. But you cannot just say we're electing people and then they just go there to eat the money and get fat. That is not the reason. So the issue of Raila or Ruto targeting members of parliament, if Ruto continues what he's doing, being very aggressive, but I think he should have some decorum, where you don't need to abuse people. You don't need to use undignified language. I'm not saying he is, but sometimes you will see a lot of resemblance of, a very furious man. This is not your country. It's not your personal property. So you have no right to get angry. No one has the right to get angry. We have the right to get angry as Kenyans. We pay their taxes. Uhuru Kenyatta is enjoying all those privileges because he's the president of this country and he's paid by the taxpayers. So I, Abdullahi Mohammed Ahmed, who is being taxed a lot, I have the right to be angry at President Uhuru if he's not doing the right things. But as a senior employee, he needs to respect Kenyans, because the tendency of thinking that the country belongs to a clique of people is the biggest undoing to Kenyans in this country. So the politicians have no right, because they are not leaders. If they are leaders, you will be talking about droughts. They'll be talking about the COVID effect on the economy. They'll be talking about people dying in the hospitals, the supplies of drugs through KBC and making sure there are other competitors. When you see the president appointing a military man to KBC, what is he running from? So what we need to do as a country is to have a political system where the citizenry are the biggest participants in the process of making everything we do in the country.
Doctor, we are yet to see a lot of temper and energy and vigor being pumped into this political arena as we speak. Because when you speak of politicians now going out completely flat out, it's something that we expected.
I think, although you must also, there's something that I wanted to explain about the issue, this man, Ruto. Ruto is a very ordinary human being who has his emotions like you and me. And if there is anybody who has earned all the sorts of names being called, is His Excellency the Deputy President.
Almost all politicians, sorts of names. All politicians have earned all their fair share of names.
I'm just telling you, because every newspaper, every talk around around the town, around the social setups, you hear of people talking of His Excellency the Deputy President Ruto. So they've used all the languages that they could imagine of, to demean him. And recently, I overheard one of the governors saying that he was telling Raila, Raila, last time when we were campaigning against you, we gave you all sorts of names. And not because you were bad, but because we wanted to defeat you.
Wanted votes.
Now, that is the politics that we are now witnessing in the Ruto's name, whereby people are calling him names, all sorts of names, to try to finish him politically. But that is part of, so when you respond to the same guys, when he responds to the same guys, he's not being angry to the country. He's being actually annoyed by the lies battled by even people who have brains. So I mean that is something that it remains to be discussed another day.
Ruto is pursuing his political agenda, so he's the one who has exposed himself at the ring. So if he receives blows from people stronger than him or weaker than him, he came to the ring.
No, what I'm just saying, Mohammed, is that Ruto is a human being. He has
who
feelings.
Wants to be a president, and not just an ordinary man.
And he's a man. So what can we say, Anolo? According to your question about the current temperament or the approach that me personally, I anticipate that this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And we have two very powerful men who have been in the history of our politics. Right Honorable Raila is not a small man. He has a background. He has a solid ground support. And Maki also, Ruto, His Excellency, the Deputy President, has worked with Raila. And he knows very well. He knows the man who is actually competing with. So these are long-term friends competing together. So in this case, the race is not going to be very easy.
Can we conclude that it's a friendly fire then? It's a friendly fire.
What I think
it is.
What needs to happen is the politics should have some hygiene. We should have some decency.
Yeah.
I am not saying that we should abuse people or they should abuse us. When you have a country like Kenya that is becoming a very, developing country in Africa. I mean, we are competing with Ghana and South Africa. We are far ahead of most of our neighbors.
Yeah.
So the person anticipating to lead us needs to show some decorum. In my mother tongue, with the community, they say that if you want to be a leader, you need to have the skin of a warthog, because people will insult you. You see how people, hardened skin. You see the warthog in the countryside resist all that sun and lack of water, and it's a very surviving animal.
And sometimes bites.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you need a thick skin to some level when you go into politics, because you are the one who exposed yourself to that. If you're a shop seller or a camel herder, no one is going to talk to you. If you're working here as a law, people will not abuse you, will just criticize you on what you do in the show. But when you go out there and you seek a seat in Nyanza, boss, we will bash you because you're earning Kenyan tax money.
Yeah.
So that's how it is. What we need is Ruto is a PhD holder, so you must behave like one. When you go to school and you read and you write, there are certain ways you carry yourself.
Yeah.
There is some difference. You're not special. But because of the training you had, because of the reading you had, because of the exposure you had, you carry yourself with some decorum. You don't see Western presidents behaving the way we behave in Africa, even though our democracy is still very young. So what I'm saying is, there is nobody who pays the bill of anybody in this country. We all came from your house, I came from my house, he came from his house, but we are 58 million strangers living with each other. How many people do you know in this country? 1,200 in your phone?
58
million. You don't know the names of 50 million Kenyans.
Exactly.
So this is a country where strangers have agreed to live with each other in a country has boundaries called Kenya.
Okay. There's something that's quite happening right now. A few months ago, so to speak, the Mount Kenya was perceived to be a stronghold of Deputy President William Ruto, and it was reported as locked. And the number of trips, the kind of picture, the kind of, it was purported to be his stronghold. And now, moving forward, people said that Raila Odinga was not going to make it to Mount Kenya without the help of Uhuru Kenyatta, the president. But currently, things are slowly changing. What do you read out of that, Dr.?
I think if you have been reading all the occurrences that has happened, I mean, even during the meetings, you compare the kind of welcomings that Right Honorable Raila has received and the kind of welcomings that His Excellency the Deputy President has received. You will be able to tell because Right Honorable Raila is still on the making, because he met with the leaders. A few leaders, especially the person, even last weekend, I mean, he met with the traditional leaders
in Nyeri.
In Nyeri. Actually being, I don't know, I mean, that was it was decided by the elders that Mount Kenya actually is in to support Right Honorable Raila Odinga.
The story goes that the elders
and,
from both sides were
the frequent people whom you have been seeing in this camp, you could talk of Bita Kene, talk of Macharia, Royal Media, talk of what some few people who have actually stood with Raila in Mount Kenya. But look at the maturity of the leadership in Mount Kenya. You could feel the absence of most of the leaders during the coronation, or you can call it anything. So that indicates that Raila is yet to go deep into Mount Kenya. Not that he's gone here yet. The ceremonies have been done, but he's yet to make an impact. So in this case, you cannot question as of now the popularity of Ruto. Even after when they came out from Kirinyaga, when they were in Nyeri. So immediately after the meeting, as Raila actually drove across the town, the youths came up actually with placards saying that we belong to Ruto. I mean, that tells you that the ground is still very hostile. So in this case, Raila has to do more job in Mount Kenya to make more inroads than what it is now. So we cannot say Mount Kenya has descended to the lake. I'm not seeing that one yet.
I like the way you put it, but Mount Kenya has descended to the lake. Okay, fine. But then now, in politics, it's democracy. He went to Mount Kenya, he campaigned, but now the youth came out with placards and saying, we belong to Ruto. And by the way, and it was peaceful, which is, you know, to any politician would easily see that as a move that, you know, how can I really change the minds of these people who am in their stronghold, in their region, but they're supporting my opponent. So what can I do as a politician, of which I know Raila Odinga is a smart politician? He must go back to the drawing board, plus all the think tanks, to see how he can change the whole situation.
Central Kenya has a very huge chunk of votes. So
it cannot be wished away.
It cannot. And then the president also comes from there. So a sitting president, a second term sitting president, comes from a region that has 6-7 million votes. So he will have an influence. There is no doubt about that. But the doubt is really the president supporting Uhuru? If he does, then will he take him to Sagana? Because the only way you can prove to us that you're supporting him is you take him to Sagana, you bring the leaders, you tell him, this is my guy. But that's how is that going to augur with Kenyans and Ruto camp? Now, the difference between the two camps, Ruto is still, you know, a young man. Raila is an elderly man. He's 78, 77 years old. So the energy cannot be the same. Raila has been out of government for some times. From 2013, he has been out of government. So he just came to government March. Was it last year?
March last 2018.
2018. So in 4 years in government right now, he's been given some leash with, you know, chasing cars and some resources here and there. But Ruto has been in government for 10 years. Literally running the government from 2013 to 2017. And then now, he has been given the leash. Because some people will blame why is Ruto doing what he's doing. Ruto is doing what he's doing because as principal assistant to the president, if the president does not assign you roles, then that's a constitutional office. You go inspect the projects, whether it's political or otherwise. What do? You don't just sit in the office. He's a man with aspirations. He wants to become the president of this country. He's a Kenyan citizen. He has the right to do whatever he's doing. He does not need to apologize to anyone, just like the way Raila is doing or Uhuru is doing. So Kenya is going through a transition. Our political democracy is taking shape because under the new political dispensation, there is a lot the new constitution brought to us. So Kenyans are free to choose whoever they want. With that, why are people going back to Mount Kenya, and what influence will Ruto and Raila have? We might have maybe Ruto getting most of the youth, because sometimes you don't support Ruto because you love him or you like him, but just because you are protesting against people whose dads put us into this mess in the first place. Raila's father was a deputy president. Uhuru Kenyatta's father was a president of this country. Gideon Moi's father was a president. So expecting the sons of the people who put us into this mess in the first place to think about us as Kenyans, that they're going to think about our interest. If it was that, food security today, you've seen prices have gone up. Milk is 57, 58 from 50 bob. Everything is either 50% or 100% up. Fuel. This morning I came by a motorbike. He bought 500 shillings with 4.5 liters. So things are a bit expensive. Economy is doing bad because of COVID. So people are getting frustrated. So sometimes Ruto might be chosen not because he's the angel that people are praying for, but because they are protesting. The majority of Kenyans might protest against the system. And every exit in government is not always in good books with citizens.
Right.
So the president and Raila are working on something. Kenyans have the right to vote for whoever they want. But right now, Ruto and his team are very young, vibrant, very strong.
And that brings me to this question, Daktari. Ruto and his team must be working extremely hard, because now the entrance of Raila Odinga fully, though he's not declared his candidature, all pointers
9th of December we're waiting for.
Exactly, according to the dispatch. But then now, they must be working so hard to make sure that they contain him, right? And if he doesn't, this might not work well for the deputy president, who has been campaigning for the last 5 years since last election.
I think, let me tell you, Olo, what the deputy president is actually doing already is ahead of Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Even though people are saying that he is yet to declare, it is in public domain that he will be there.
He will contest.
And then again, looking at it, Olo, becoming number one may not be very difficult than sustaining to be number one. So what Ruto is now struggling to do is to maintain to be number one.
That is the biggest headache right now.
That is the biggest headache. And that is why things like where you will be his running mate, things like who are the right people to champion his campaign, is on the right track. But there are things that he cannot run away. He cannot run away to appoint a deputy president from a particular region. And that will also have some influence in the whole scenario. If he will win that one, I can tell you that going by the speed at which they are moving, about almost 14, 20 meetings per day, when Right Honorable Raila can hardly make 3 or 4, I mean, that speed is supersonic. I'm telling you. So I mean, so it will be very, very difficult. And also, of course, when you look at the Right Honorable Raila, easier to get these people who are really, I mean, you should put these people in place who are more focal, vibrant, and highly mobile. He cannot move on his own. He has to get these foot soldiers in place. And that is a strategy that I'm saying is still is yet to realize that one. Because if he has a very strong team like the team that Ruto is having, he will be able to make a headway. But if he should be the one to make to keep ahead of an individual or 2 people, and also holding on to the old guards. I think I know he's old, but he should not hold on so much to the old guards. If he is expecting Honorable Commander to produce the force, these old people, I'm not saying they are bad, but what I'm saying, he should get a more vibrant team comprising of young people.
These are people who've been politicians.
No, I'm telling you the truth. Because let me tell you,
and the so-called
come 2022 or low, whether Raila will get or Ruto, there will be a president in the Republic of Kenya. But what we are saying is that he has to put more effort, but by bringing in the new blood into the mainstream. I would wish to see more about Otienda Olo. I mean, being ahead. I mean, even Orengo is very good in strategies, but he should keep back a bit and lead. Have leaders
if you look at just to interject, if you look at the way he's been crafting his the people around him. For quite some time, we've not been seeing people like Millie Odhiambo. We've not been seeing people like Otienda Molo, the Orengos. We've not been seeing the Jared Okelos. We've not been seeing people like these
Omabay lawyer, these young
Kajuang. All those people are being left behind. And any time he goes, for example,
is it a strategy?
Issue? Of course, yes. Because initially it used to be called a tribal party. But right now, the strategy is, I want to give that national face. When you go to Turkana, have Turkana leaders. If you go to Kwale, Coastal Region, have the Kwale or the Coastal Region leaders with you. So if you talk of politics, these people, whatever they're doing behind the scenes,
I want to see more of these, like this gentleman from Mbagazi. What do you call this?
Babu Owino.
Babu Owino.
Yes.
If we can have about 5 Babu Owino, cycling Raila, I think we'll be somewhere. Because unajua Owino addresses to the youth. And the majority of those people who are looking for votes are the youth. So in this case, I mean, it will work well in that strategy to have majority of the youth actually in the team.
Raila is old. Old is not being a disease. He just lived more than us. So people should not think it's a disease. Raila is old because he lived more than us. Otherwise, he's a Kenyan who has the right to vie. So everyone is repeating he's old. Being old is not a disease. It's just that you have lived more than us. Now, now the difference between Ruto and the other team is Ruto has taken a style. Have you looked at his dressing? Who is he appealing to?
Appealing to the youth.
Yeah, that's a physical demeanor. He's trying to say, I'm a very strong man, very energetic. I can be with you because he's 50-something. So there are so many dimensions of strategies that you need to use. Presence on social media, presence in the television, in this national television in this country, presence in the online media, the newspapers, the rallies, the languages. Raila is an elderly man who wants to be a president in a country that is majority youth. So how is he going to be packaged? Because he can't be youth. He's 78. He can't be youth. So how can he, package his messages to resonate with the youth so that they come to his side? Now, the biggest puncher or the biggest humiliation he might face or biggest undoing he did is when he did the handshake. He lost most of his bases. Because why do you allow 200 people to die and then the people you have been speaking bad about, on behalf of those people who died, you're now dining and whining with them. So that's a problem. So many people will look at that as a person who is pursuit of power, regardless of greed or whatever he has to do. Now, people around, he might have told the Milis and the Jareds and the Otiende Amolo to step back because they are Luos, because they are also smart Luos. So they can, I would rather listen to Otiende Amolo than listen to, some of the MPs around him. So there are different people you're appealing to. You're appealing to the professionals, you're appealing to the youth, you're appealing to the mamambogas, and for that you need different people speaking to them. Now that Otiende Amolo has taken back, is he disappointed with how people around him are running? Because I was in Serena when Raila came to visit Sleep Business Community. It's not wrong to say majority of the people around him were Jaluos. It's not wrong to say there are still many Jaluos around him. Because I only saw Junet and few others. That is not a problem. We are an ethnically divided country. Because every region will come with its ethnic. We are ethno-political patronage country. This is a country where favors and nepotism is done based on tribe. But the way you package the information is still, we cannot decide things right now. I'll tell you today this, we still have 8 more months to election. So 2 weeks is a very long time in politics. A lot will change between now and March. A lot of people might leave Ruto and go to Raila. People might leave Raila and go to, we might see people who are going to be independent. By and large, what is important is we maintain a very peaceful country.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, my director says that we are coming almost to a close. Time rhymes so fast. Apart from that, we expect, the State of the Nation address tomorrow. Probably we need to preempt for the sake of Kenyans who do not maybe, Kenyans are busy right now. So much happened. The State of the Address is tomorrow at 2:30. Dr. Harry, starting from you,
I think what I am expecting from His Excellency the President, you see, he has done a lot in this country. He will actually he will explain more of his achievement as a President of the Republic of Kenya. He will compare his pledges and what he has achieved. And then, of course, he will also justify why we were not able to achieve to the 100% of the promises that he made. and maybe due to pandemics that we have encountered as a country. He will also touch on issues to do with unemployment that is so rampant in the country. He'll touch about on corruption corruption and the challenges of fighting the corruption in this country. He has been in the record actually saying that we've been trying to fight corruption, but things have been stopping at the judiciary. So those are some of the claims that may actually feature in. But more so, although I think President will also explain more deeper about what he thinks, how he perceives his legacy, how he would wish his legacy to be after the election, the 2022 election. And much will not be changed. But what he will promise the nation, that the short time that he is still having, he will struggle to maybe complete the pledges that he made to the nation. He is still having about 8 months down the line, and what he will also express is that he wants to leave a more united nation, a more peaceful nation, and also expressing, or rather expounding more on the peaceful next year election. I think those are the areas that I believe His Excellency will expound on, and I think we'll have many good things to say, because to me, he has done a lot. He has done a lot.
Ahmed, perhaps, unless stated, could be his last State of the Nation address. And it came at the last minute because people never saw it coming. As at last week, they were supposed to have the Jubilee NDC, but that didn't happen until now, tomorrow, and probably that will come later on. Should we expect some goodies from the President?
Well, I think, first of all, the President will give us hope, a message of hope, because there is nothing much he can change in 8 months. He has been in power for 10 years. Whatever he did, he's going to explain his legacy. Corruption is part of it. The insecurity, remember the committee incidents. So he's going to emphasize a bit of security in the country. He's going to emphasize a bit of, the economical hurdles of what's happening, how he's going to foresee the transition of power. It's a reality that he will be the last on 2nd of 9th of August, on Tuesday. He will be immediately after the results are announced and the other president is sworn in, he becomes automatically the former president. So I'm sure in his mind he's juggling with on how to balance between supporting his candidate and making sure that the country is very stable and he doesn't go down in history as the president who made sure that we have gone up in mayhem and chaos. So he wants to leave a very transitional, peaceful country where Kenyans are thriving, where Kenyans are hardworking. A lot of things that happened, we can't blame him because there are other people working with him. But we can say that he tried his best, but he was not the best president we ever had in this country.
Wow. Okay. That's the last time to leave at that particular point. We've been talking about matters politics, and of course, they've expressed themselves, and I said from the best heads, so that we can get to understand some of these things affecting us. We're having that State of the Nation address tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. And of course, tomorrow we'll also be delving much more on that and what we should expect the president, and even after, we'll have a postmortem on what the president will say. Thank you, gentlemen. We've been talking to Ahmed Abdullahi, who is also a political commentator. He's also a journalist, by the way, and Dr. Rotich, who is also a political analyst and a commentator as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
May God bless you.
May God bless you as well. All right, we're taking a break, and when we come back, Jane has a very interesting debate to have. What is she talking about? Stick around. You'll have to notice that. We'll be right back.
I do need to talk to you. It has to do with something really important, and it's really urgent.
What is it? Careful, Connie. Don't you dare trust him. He's just taking advantage of your family.
The police are hounding me. They're all over me.
Are you serious?
Yes, because of this. I would like to ask you for her hand. I would like to marry Diana.
I'm sorry that we're all late today, but...
Good afternoon.
The Amazons.
With me, I've got enough love for you and me, straight from my heart. Sweet love,
skanking sweet. Everybody wanna feel like free. Forget your troubles and rock with me.
Jah shall wash away all the tears from my eyes. In times when the storm, someone's bound to come and try to spoil the show. Remember the songs used to make you rock away. Those were the days when...
Welcome back. Just having a quick conversation with our guest who's joining us via Zoom today. You will be seeing her in a bit, but in case you are just joining us, karibu tena sana. This is Good Morning Kenya. I am Jane Wambui. We are glad that you have chosen to continue your morning on with us. And from that political note, we now move on to the next segment. And as we have mentioned a number of times here, today we're going to be having a conversation around gender-based violence, and more so given the fact that we are celebrating this year's 16 days of activism, which started last week on the 25th of November and will be running up until the 10th of December, which also coincides with World Human Rights Day. But for now, in regards to this conversation, joining us via Zoom, we have Honorable Lucy Moria, who is a consultant when it comes to gender issues, and she is also, she holds a degree in nursing and psychology. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for making time to be with us on Good Morning Kenya.
My pleasure.
Fantastic. Now, all right, great. Now, for the benefit of our viewers, we'd just like to understand a bit about your background when it comes to gender-related issues.
Hello.
All right, we seem to be having a bit of a technical hitch right there, but we'll be getting to sort that out in a bit. Remember, once again, this is a conversation around issues to do with the 16 days of activism. And this year's theme is actually Orange the World and violence against women now. And just to paint a picture for you when it comes to gender-based violence, these are stats that have been shared by the United Nations, and more so just prior to the pandemic, and also how understanding how the pandemic exacerbated the whole situation. But just looking at the figures that they put out for the previous year, before the pandemic struck, 1 in every 3 women had experienced some form of violence throughout their lifetime. During the pandemic, this number doubled to 2 in every 3 women had experienced some form of violence in their lifetime. And this is our women and girls for that matter. But just looking at last year alone, that is the year 2020, 243 million women and girls across the world were abused by intimate partners, and this is violence meted against them. 243 million across the world, women and girls. And looking at also this figure, less than 40% have reported, or rather reported, these cases or this violence that was meted against them. Therein just showing you the biggest gap that we have when it comes to fighting and bringing to an end gender-based violence. And also noting that this year we are celebrating 30 years since we started marking this 16 days of activism. 30 years down the line, how much progress have we made, given, when this 16 days were first celebrated in 1991, the end goal was to end gender-based violence by the time we get to the year 2030. But so far, 30 years down the line, how are we doing? Now, let's rope in our guest this morning. Once again, we do hope the connection is much better now. Joining us via Zoom is Honorable Lucy Moria, who is a consultant on gender issues and also holds a degree when it comes to nursing and psychology. Good morning, Honorable Lucy.
Good morning, Ms. Jane.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for the
Fantastic. Thank you. Now, let us just start by understanding your journey, given you have been in the political arena, the political space here in our country for a number of years. How has your experience been like by virtue of just being a woman in politics?
My journey has not been easy as a woman in politics. I started my journey in 2013. And it was my very first time. In 2013, I contested for the seat of women representative in Isiolo County. And the reason I chose that time, it was because I thought that is where I would represent women who I've been working with for a long time. And it was rocky. So the women's seat was not many people were even interested. The men were saying, after all, that's just a women's seat. Isiolo, we are aware, and it's part of the northeastern region of the country, where most of the politics, they are locally arranged by wazees. And when it came to the women's seat, it was not even recognized. Yoni mambo ya wanawake, they can compete themselves. So I threw myself into there and I ran second. There was a lot of harassment, verbal harassment. I never experienced it physical, but in some areas, some of my neighboring areas, it was. But there are some things I could not do just because I was a woman. Most men, they meet at night. They go work at night, they go into the bars, and now there I'm not. In case I try even to be out, I'll be harassed. And this is not a place for women. Politics is not a place for women. So I went through that. And after 2013, I was number 3. Some other 2 ladies, one of them got in the seat, and I continued just working with the communities. And 2017, I decided to go for Isiolo Member of Parliament. So this time now it was even more rocky. This time I was not competing with the women, I was competing with men. I was the only woman on the list of 9. And actually, yes. So it was even tough. I got harassment from the voters themselves, even women themselves. Why would you even go for the main seat? It's not for you. Where should you even compete with men? All this, or are you married? Are you, all this sort of harassment. Again, now, here I am in the field of men where money spoke, and a lot of it is influenced by handouts. Now they want now the pockets. Barely people listen even to the issues. You are here talking about issues, people asking, what do you have to offer?
All right. Now, speaking of, people asking, what do you have to offer? Maybe you could tell us about the status of Isiolo County when it comes to cases that are based on gender. Generally speaking, where would you gauge Isiolo County?
And in what, again?
When it comes to concerns around gender-based violence in your county, what are the prevalence rates that you have seen?
It has been quite a lot. Gender-based violence is not only physical, it's mental, early marriages for young girls. You're supposed to get married, that's a harassment by itself. Then people live in the fear because of culture. They don't even report these cases because it's like an embarrassment. Women get raped, they don't want to say. Women want to be beaten, they are beaten, they are hiding in the, you say, hata niligongwa na mlango, na saa hiyo you have been beaten. It's been very prevalent in our area.
All right. And do you think one of the reasons as to why it continues to prevail is what you just mentioned at the beginning, that awareness could be a problem because maybe people don't really understand the different forms in which this violence presents itself, given that the fact you've given an example about early marriages. But do you think that the locals, maybe to some extent, might not understand that this is one of those forms of gender-based violence?
Actually, it is, yes, because a lot of women, even some even educated, one is Isiolo's rate of the education, it's very low, and a lot of women actually did not even have the opportunity to go to school, and so they don't even know some of these things. You tell them what they think is being physically abused, they think that is an abuse. And the physical abuse in some of the cultures, it is normal, it is a treatment. A husband is supposed to beat you up, a man can beat you up, it is okay. Because most of the cultures of the tribes that we have, you are even believed that women are just children, you're supposed to discipline them. So the women have tended to believe that. Remember in their culture, there are even some parts of goats, when it is slaughtered, women could not even eat. Why? Because you're a woman, you're supposed to eat matumbo. There are some specific meats that's for women. So women do not understand even financial harassment is there if someone is denying you. They do not understand that it's not just physical. They do not understand it is it's even getting forced married when you are still young, to drop out of school and get married. It is part of abuse. They do not understand that. They do not understand emotional torture is also part of abuse, because someone could not be beating you up physically, but it mentally tortures you. And a lot of women actually have a lot of mental breakdown. That is why you found during this Corona time, a lot of people are broken. They just keep it to themselves. They don't want to talk. Someone just tortures you, mental torture. And a lot of women do not understand it is torture.
All right. Now, I'd like to get your thoughts when it comes to some of the gaps that have also been identified by the UN when it comes to the gaps, of course, when it comes to fighting gender-based violence. And one thing they pointed out is believing the survivors have turned the narrative against gender-based violence survivors, and in this case, mostly women, such that people, or rather the greater percentage of the people who are supposed to be assisting, do not believe the survivors when they report these cases. What are your thoughts on that?
That is correct. the survivors, you know, in some countries, like developed countries, we have what we call like the homes where shelters, women shelters where you keep them. But now you are not economically stable, that you have a job, you can hire or rent a home to be, you run, you go to your parents' home where you find your father is another man who says now you should be there, mama hapa anasema lazima uvumilie. So in developed countries, we have women shelters. Like when you're immediately abused, unaweza enda ukae huko. Then you also have counselors, and here we lack all that. A question of counselors. People assume so long as you cried and stopped, or you went back to your home, you are okay, of which is not true. Because what you are going through has not been solved. So we lack that.
Now, let's bring in the aspect of funding when it comes to some of these cases and helping the fight against gender-based violence. How are we doing as a country, directing funds towards this cause?
Actually, I don't think we are doing what is supposed to be done. We are the people who are trying a lot is the NGOs. They're the ones who come out to civic educate women, also men, on this right, because both should be involved for them to understand it is not right to be abused and it is not right to abuse. So as a country, I don't think like there has been said aside even monies for that. Now we have devolution. We expect even the counties to take it very seriously and set even a department for gender only, because it is a very serious gender. It's a very serious group of people. Almost over 50% of the population is women. So I think it should be taken seriously. It should be put as a department. We should have a money set aside for that, and it should in the county levels mostly, because now we want devolved. And that's where those, mostly those even abused more, they are in the rural areas.
And when it comes to the responding mechanisms that are in place, of course, we have seen time and again, we have been told that there's a gender desk at every police station. But when it comes to the responding mechanisms that are supposed to, come into action when a victim goes to report the case and also collect the data that would inform future responsive mechanisms, what more needs to be done to ensure that it is as effective as it is intended to be for the good of this person that has been victimized?
The desks are there, right? Like here in Isiolo we have, but the time you take, it takes too long. I had a specific case sometimes last year where a woman was abused, she was raped, and she reported, and the guy ran away, and the woman reported. It took several months. Eventually, the guy was caught up. The police is like, we can't find him. And they have all the machineries. They can trace. They can use, even find where the phone. Actually, even our phone was taken. So it was I think even they were really serious. Wangempata. But when we spoke up, we went I spoke it on the media, and that is the time they woke up. So I think also it's necessary for women, even women leaders especially, to speak for others. Because after we spoke out with some organizations here in Isiolo, that's the time they took action and they got that guy somewhere in the central, and he is now, justice was done, he's now somewhere behind bars.
All right. And looking at us as a country, and especially looking at the political space that you are in, and also the fact that we have about 9 months to get to the next general elections, would you say we have the political goodwill, both as a country and as part of the international community, to come together and contribute our efforts towards ending gender-based violence by the time we're clocking 2030?
Say that one more time.
Do we have the political goodwill towards the fight against gender-based violence within the local space, and also considering the fact that we are part of an international community, so that, gender-based violence can be a past conversation by the time we're getting to 2030?
I think in books, in theory, it is there. They try to say it's there, but in real practice, practice, it is not, we are not halfway. Women will remain to be abused, will remain to be harassed, and especially now, even in the social media, we find a lot of harassment, a lot of discouragement. So I think we can do a lot more on that, on tightening these rules and encouraging women more and having more civic education to our people. Because even if the laws are there, we have very good laws in Kenya. That's why I said in papers. But when it comes to implementation, it's not quite there. And women are still struggling.
All right. And how then do we bring our male counterparts, and especially in the political space, because given they have the biggest percentage when it comes to representation in our political space, how can they be roped in a way that they can be part of the solutions towards ending gender-based violence?
I think another thing that maybe could be corrected, we have a lot of organizations that work on the women. We've been talking about women issues for the longest, women, then gender balance, gender-based violence. I think it is a high time now. The conversation should be to all. Both men and women should be involved, because a lot of men, it's only women who are getting the opportunity in these organizations being taught they should not be abused. But we are not having a lot of civic education and education on the men's side also to teach them why they should not abuse. So sometimes it brings even a huge difference, because many think we are at war. When we are a woman, maybe has learned this and she says this should not happen to me. Culturally, the man believes that is how it should be. So I think a lot of civic education also should be on the man's side. So that is why even we end up having less women, even like in parliament or in elected positions, because women, even women themselves, do not even believe in themselves. They don't believe they can say no to some things. You can say no. Women have to learn to say no to this, and men should learn to say also no. I'm telling you, in the West, where I've lived for some time, in the US, men are the ones who say no to this more than anybody else, because they are people fear the law. The law is implemented. Here we have the law, but it's not. There's always a shortcut. So men, we should have more trainings on men too, not only women. So, and then we can also have collective trainings on both, so them to understand, so the men cannot take women as just as working against them. We can work like we are complementing one another, not just competitors, to understand that each one of us has a talent, each one of us has something that I can do better than you, and then we put it together. It will be good for our country. We have more women who have ideas. We have women. I'm not saying it's every woman who can, not also every man who can. And then we start listening to issue-oriented politics. We listen to issues. We listen to agendas, not just money, because that is the biggest evil in this country. People should be taught that handouts cannot work. That's why a lot of women end up being disadvantaged. A lot of women do not have those quite huge sums of money. And especially when they are coming now in the arena, when it is maybe the first time they are trying to come in, now they find the men who have been there existing and they have all these monies. So then the comparison will be who has more. That attitude should be taught to the people, the voters, should be educated on that. It's not just about money, it's about listening, and maybe in the elected positions, we don't go there to fight where you need muscular energy for you to fight. You use the brains, you can make policies for our country, because it's not that because you are a woman you cannot think. So they should understand that. So a lot of education on the medias, like you are doing, thank you so much, like the NGOs, but now the NGOs are just doing it and then doing it in the rural areas or even in the urban areas. Women get abused.
And also just bringing also women, more and more women and girls to this conversation towards ending gender-based violence. Again, from just your own experience, you have also experienced, an antagonism in the political space from your fellow women. How can we encourage more women to be our first line of defense and preventing further gender-based violence cases from occurring?
Again, I said the media has a very huge role to play in the local radios, in the national televisions. And another thing also, we find some biasness from the national media setups, where most of the people who are called to like conversation like this, thank you, that got invited. Now I live in Isiolo, and there are a lot of people now who can identify with me. Oh, sir, Madam Lucy was saying this, so it is wrong. They will believe in the local person because that is their setup, more than just someone who is just talking in Nairobi all the time. So we want that participation up to the the village level. Even sometimes we invade even the women, even those ones who have been victims, even those who have been victims and who have not been victims, from that grassroots level. Coming from down, going up, it will make them understand. So when you find a case, oh, this is someone from my village, she was abused, she's stopped, and this, she's this. Oh, that's Madam Lucy, she's from Isiolo. I see her, she's saying it is wrong. They believe in you because they identify. But now when the media continues just getting women from Nairobi all the time, people we are not familiar with, so let's go to the ground level, let's go, because violence is both in urban and the rural areas.
All right. Now, as we bring this conversation to a close, we are once again marking the 16 days of activism that will be running up until the 10th of December, which coincides with the Human Rights Day. What is your call to action message to every single individual who is watching us today?
To everyone who is watching us today, I would say gender-based violence should be a thing of the past. I'm talking to men, boys, women, and girls, our leaders. They should understand that. Also, what you even watch on the national televisions about the parliamentarians, you even find them harassing women there. That is also bad, because what you do there, this is what our children are watching. And also we are also asking the government to watch this harassment on the social medias, and all the stakeholders, including the media. I'm also telling you that let's involve everyone. Participation is going to help. It cannot be one-sided, because here we are looking for solutions of something that has existed and has been existing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for making time to be with us this morning. We have been speaking with Honorable Lucy Moria, who is a consultant when it comes to gender issues. She holds a degree in nursing and psychology and is an aspiring MP for the Isiolo County in 2022. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much, General Boyd.
Fantastic. Now that brings us to
all this conversation, but we are not done with this general conversation around gender-based violence. The 16 days do continue up until the 10th of December, and we will be sure to have more of these discussions here on Good Morning Kenya, in line with the theme Orange the World and Violence Against Women Now. For now, we want to say goodbye. Thank you so much for being with us. Be sure to join us again tomorrow morning. I'm Jen Wamboy. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
Hii ni Mitikasi Leo, makala kutoka BBC. Yaliyomo: Ghana kuanzisha tozo ya miamala ya simu. Je, hii inamaanisha nini kwa uchumi wa nchi hiyo? Tunazungumza na waziri wa fedha Ken Ofori-Atta. Baadaye Uingereza na mataifa mengine yasitisha kwa muda safari za ndege za moja kwa moja kutoka Afrika Kusini kufuatia aina mpya ya kirusi cha corona. Kisha tunaangazia ukuzaji wa miundombinu kisiwani Zanzibar. Tunakujia mubashara kutoka Nairobi, Kenya. Usibanduke. Karibu katika habari za biashara zinazokuhusu, uchambuzi wa kina na mahojiano. Jina langu ni